Hey, everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler Jones, and you're listening to The Element Podcast.
I wish I could go back to 17. Guitars and a couple of friends with nothing to lose everything. Tears all around and a graduation kiss. Just a few things.
What's happening, all my woods people? The Whitetail Weatherman here again with KC Smith, everybody's favorite. KC, I let you do the weather report last time.
Give it to me.
Okay, I guess I will. All right, so it's raining.
It is.
But it's kind of like your least favorite kind of day, right?
It is. Yeah. It's actually started to rain a little bit more intensely out there, so it's a little bit. I told you earlier that when it's just kind of misty outside, I don't like it because you kind of want to be outside, but then you can't be. When it's raining real hard, you got this closure of like, I can't be outside right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you could be if you were hardcore, but I'm just not hardcore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I'm weak, according to that one comment.
No, he said y'all are. So that's both of us, dude.
Y'all are weak is what he said, yeah. So I'm glad that you got joined into that.
Y'all are weak, but you did kill a deer. A nice one on public. The same day I'm criticizing you about. What else? That's rude.
Yeah. I baited you into the weather report there. You basically gave it, but yeah.
You reported. I just commented.
Okay.
Color commentary here.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. You know what? I actually, I never realized, like when I listen to games on the radio, which my dad loves to do and has done forever, because football season's during hunting season, so we're driving, so we listen to it on the radio a lot. And I never have thought about like how the dynamic of a a color commentator and what's the other guy called play-by-play.
Yeah,
like I've never thought about that dynamic at all. But there's one guy that's like he's dedicated to the play-by-play, and one is dedicated to the color commentary. And I like never thought about that. I was just like, oh, these guys are just talking about the game, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally a new thing on me over like the last year.
I think I had that alignment like 2 years ago. Whenever I really started to understand, I didn't like Gary Danielson as a color commentary guy very much. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but just like. I started looking into it a little bit, and it's like, oh, that's what's going on. Yeah.
You know who I like that calls games these days is Tony Romo.
He's the best.
He's great.
He is the best. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We were listening to who were we listening to? We were listening to one of the playoff games, Seattle and Green Bay the other day. I think it's like Marv Albert or whatever his name is. I can't remember. He's like an old guy that does a lot of NBA stuff and college stuff, but apparently does some football stuff too. I think it was him. I don't know for sure, but man, he was good. Like he was like painting pictures with like, he's like Rogers walks up under the center. His beard is growing. Like it was like it's frosty breath. You can see his breath. Like he was like they're talking about how they're lined up over the painted G or whatever, and you're like just picturing exactly what's going on there, and it was good, man. But that was kind of why I thought about this just now. But I've never thought about the
it's
fact
a lost
two guys.
art, man, because one of my favorite books of all time is Old Man and the Sea. I don't know if you've ever read it or not, but you should. It's a quick read by Ernest Hemingway, and there's a young boy, man, kind of like that tweener age or whatever who the story
like 25.
No, like probably I don't really remember if it tells you his age, but somewhere between 8 and 12 is kind of where I envision him, and he's kind of the main character in the book. And the book starts out, you think it's going to be about like fishing, and it is, but it starts out he's in Cuba and he's listening to a baseball game in America, and he's like fantasizing about all this stuff, and he's like the book is commentating is a weird word there. He's painting this picture in his mind of the people playing baseball for the Yankees. And like, because, it's like 1930s Cuba. So like, that's the really cool thing. Right. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's when it kind of struck me reading that like that used to be a really important thing, because you didn't have this video playing where people just kind of had to talk over it. Used to, that's how you absorb sports. Like, can you imagine being a sports fan before there was TV, and like the way you kept up with what was going on was with what was said on the radio? Yeah. It would be weird, man. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't to them because they thought it was awesome. They're like, hey, I don't have to read about this in the paper. I can get a live audio of this. How cool is that?
So when you see, like if you were to see a picture in the paper, it's going to be black and white, so like color and stuff like that would have to be brought to life through that radio broadcast or whatever. It's pretty interesting, man, for sure.
Cool stuff.
I never thought about it like that. That's pretty neat, man.
Well, speaking of commentary, today on the podcast, we are going to do some catching up, but we're not going to do one of these standard old season wrap-up things or whatever. We actually got a ton of questions throughout deer season about all kinds of different stuff, and we really appreciate all of you who take the time to write to us, whether if you got a question and you want our advice for some unknown reason, or if you just have words of encouragement. I think, speaking of lost arts, I think being encouraging to one another is something that's pretty lost these days.
For real.
I really appreciate it when people take the time to love each other, man, because it's pretty hard in a field that we're in where like being tough is cool, like it's pretty hard to be but like to go against the grain with that and just tell people that they're doing a good job. So thank you to all y'all who do that kind of thing. But today we're going to go over some of these questions. We've answered some of these in person on social media or whatever, like in instant messenger or whatever you call it, messaging. But some of them we thought might be a good idea to cover just on the podcast. And some of them we didn't answer very well. So this is kind of a wrap-up, or not wrap-up. What's like a rehashing of that question. Maybe we can give you a better example now that deer season's pretty much over, minus me struggling with a muzzleloader. So we're going to do that today. But first...
it's the real struggle stick, bro.
That is the real struggle stick, right? Dead gummit. I actually feel a lot better. I took the scope off. That was actually somebody wrote about that. I took the scope off this week. I know we talked about it last week on the podcast, and I'm hitting way better open sights.
That's cool.
So if I can ever just get an opportunity, hopefully we'll be able to shoot something. But,
just got to see it here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how hard could that be?
I know.
Oh, wait, we live in East Texas.
Oh, it's a lot harder than you think, right? And corn and all. Like, it's not the easiest thing.
Nope.
I got corn and green stuff and can't get a deer right now.
They don't want the green stuff, do they?
No, they don't want the green stuff.
How weird is that? Like, it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be tasty stuff. Like, what else are they eating out there that's green right now?
I think they like the woody brow stuff.
I guess.
I think that's what they go to. And whenever you've got that everywhere, it's pretty hard. I think when it gets real cold, they want the green, and we don't have that right now. Yeah. We haven't had that since November. Yeah. So
I don't know. It's crazy. It's so weird. It's so different than what is taught within the whitetail world most of the time. You know what I mean?
The South's a different animal, man.
It is,
That's for sure.
It is.
But you actually went and did something without me.
Yep.
Dadgum you, Tyler. No, I couldn't go. But you've gone and done. What have you gone and done?
Just what you want to do after tagging out in November is what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I went bird hunting. Yeah. So went to Kansas, and dude, it was so much fun. Not to make you feel bad.
That's okay.
It was so much fun.
I've had a lot of fun this fall, so like I can't be like too super jealous or whatever.
Yeah.
The more fun, the better. Like, there's no one who's going to argue that point. But,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, there's some, different funner opportunities that could have happened out there for us. But it was fun. I had fun, too. But I had fun on this trip in particular. We went, after getting things squared away with my dad, because he can't remember things very well, finally getting the details and everything, we went up for, I guess it was like 2.5 days, basically, of hunting. And we had big crew, man. We had my dad and I, Drew, who we've mentioned on the podcast before, and then a bunch of Drew's buddies. That one of them has bird dogs, and he brought 6 bird dogs, so we had plenty of dogs. And then a couple of them are a couple of Louisiana boys that probably are just enjoying this week so much right now, being that LSU just won. And then another one that's from the Metroplex, that's one of Drew's friends that I hadn't met before, but I've texted with Drew, Handy. So anyway, that kind of lays the picture out for it with who all was there. But yeah, man, it was cold. A cold front came in, and so the first morning it was like 13 and blowing. Well, actually, the first morning wasn't quite that cold. I think it was like in the 20s, maybe upper 20s, and it was blowing like just a consistent north wind that it wasn't really gusting. It was just like this constant 20 mile an hour. That's just like literally, I would feel like I'm aging right now. I'm walking into this wind, aging is what I'm doing. Like my face is just getting blistered. And anyway, we hunted. The wind made it difficult on the dogs, I think, a little bit. But we jumped. When
you say that, you mean their smelling ability?
Yeah, I think so. Just kind of swirling in the grass and stuff. But we went to the first spot, which is a spot you and Drew ended up, I think, jumping at some point late last year. And we went with, we had the dogs or whatever, and the grass was awesome. Mm-hmm. I mean, 4 to 5 foot of grass, tons of sunflowers and stuff, And so I was like, man, there's going to be something in here. We jumped 2 hen pheasants, and nobody shot, so that was good. And then
explain that a little bit.
Well, you can't shoot hens. Okay. At least in Kansas, you can't. So you have to be on your game, especially if they jump up while you're facing into the sun. You just got to, if it's not super long tail, you just pretty much don't shoot unless somebody, is like, rooster, and then you shoot and you hope they're right. Which I was able to tell pretty much everything that jumps up, and my dad and some of the older guys were not able to tell all the time, so they were relying on us to say hen real loud or rooster real loud, So anyway, we jumped those, and then these guys are all older than me. A lot of them are my dad's age. A couple of them are a little bit younger, and so they are not willing to walk around on big chunks of public grassland as much as me, probably.
Yeah.
And and that's fine. I mean, whatever. I was, frankly, I was pretty tired at the end of the weekend from walking, so I know they were just probably sore as could be, especially Drew, because, he's just, basically that's just a shot to him if he listens to this podcast. No. Anyway, he was a champ, man. He went through it, but
Drew is oiled canvas.
Yeah.
He's got some really, I guess they're made chaps? That way. Yeah. It's like old canvas chaps. And when he helped me look for my buck, he wore those. And I was like, dude, you smell like a lot. I don't think you need to be wearing that anywhere around whitetail stuff. Yeah. It smells like diesel.
Yeah. I didn't even smell them. But
really?
Yeah, I never rode in a truck with him or anything. But yeah.
Maybe that's just how he smells. He's pretty smelly.
Diesel. Yeah. He's a diesel mechanic. Anyway, so we did jump a covey of quail right there, which is I was under the impression my dad was that they were like quail dudes, and and their dogs are quail dogs. They're not designed to point for pheasants and stuff. But apparently, what I was under the impression of is that the dogs, the pheasants mess with the dogs a little bit, as far as I guess they smell similar to a quail or something, and they run a lot and this and that, but. Anyway, yeah, it was just, I thought they were wanting the quail, but after we got into some pheasants, everybody was definitely all about shooting some pheasants.
That's how I am.
Yeah.
Man, little bird or big bird, I'm going to want to go shoot some bigger birds.
Yeah.
It's just the way it
Dude,
goes.
I'll tell you, and that's how I've always felt too.
Yeah.
But after this weekend, I like the quail a lot, dude.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because they're more fun to shoot or what?
It's just a fun experience. The pheasant's cool. They're just different. And I know that, like, to some people that are out there that haven't hunted, that are deer hunting guys or whatever, they're listening to this, it may not make a whole lot of sense, but they're just two different things, man. Like a pheasant jumps up, it's like a daggum helicopter taking off, and it's just feathers going everywhere. This tail that's just like wagging from 90 degrees each way, and it's just awesome for sure. But then, like, if you get into a group of quail, especially when you're talking about hunting with a bunch of guys, like with a pheasant getting up, like somebody's going to get a shot and maybe one other guy, and that's usually about it. Well, with a group of quail, like if it's a covey of 10 birds, like a lot of times 5 or 6 will jump up, and you'll get a couple of shots, and then when people start shooting, another 2 or 3 jump up, and then another 2 and 3 jump up when you move forward, and like. You get shots and stuff like that, and it's real challenging. And I've mentioned this before. This sounds egotistical, but I'm a good shot with a shotgun. I've shot a ton of shells throughout my life, and shot a ton of birds and that kind of thing. And we used to shoot skeet all summer, me and Cody Beaver. And we got to the point where we were like, I was perfecting my left-handed shot. I mean, that's what I was trying to do. Yeah. And it actually came in handy one time on a teal hunt. Early season, because it's during football season, and I had torn a tendon in my right hand thumb, so I had a cast, from like mid forearm up, and so I couldn't, because of the cast, I couldn't grip the grip and the trigger and everything on my gun. So I started shooting left-handed. I shot left-handed during teal season. And through the stock, or the pump or whatever, I would throw it over my cast, and I would just shoot one shot. And then I'd have to switch hands, pump, and maybe get another shot, but not normally with teal, Yeah. So I was a one-shot guy, but I limited out left-handed in the morning. So we had birds, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like I was shooting 100% or nothing. But anyway, I've shot a lot. And so I like the challenge of shooting quail, man. It's fun. It's hard. They go everywhere. It's like baby helicopters getting up, So yeah, but it was actually, the birds are pretty tough. Like late season, they tend to run and not hold. Well, we had that happen some, but we also had there were several times that we would have pheasants that wouldn't get up until we're just literally, we had dogs. We had 3 dogs working out in front of us, and we would stop at the end of a field and talk for 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden this hen would blast up from like 10 yards. It's like, I'm pretty sure a dog just ran right over that thing, And then we had them get up behind us a few times, like literally within 5 or 10 yards behind us. Yeah. They just, like we had already passed them in a line. So it was weird, man, how they were doing. But the hunt was probably a little slow for what the guys expected. But we found one field. I'll show you it later on a map. It was outrageous, dude. It was a CRP field, but it had previously been planted in milo, I guess. So there was a ton of milo in there that was just like laid over and stuff, and seeds everywhere. And dude, we walked this field. They were calling me I can't say what they were calling me, but it was they were saying that I was essentially a wizard. You know what I mean? So they were really excited after this particular piece of property. We start walking, we get like 100 yards in, and 20 to 25 pheasants jump up at like 70 to 80 yards.
Are you serious?
Oh, it was insane, dude. It was insane, dude.
In one group?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know they ever grouped up that big.
They got to a kind of like a low spot in the grass, and they got uncomfortable. And the guys, we weren't quiet or anything. They just, they'd hop out of the trucks. And like, for me, if I was doing it, I would tell everybody, if it was me in leadership position, I'd be like, hey, y'all, be quiet, don't slam doors, let's get out and let's start walking. Because you start making noise and standing around the trucks for 5 minutes and let the dogs run around, those birds are going to push off. You know what I mean? I think most of the time. Maybe not, but anyway.
Well, especially late season, they're pretty educated. I don't know how old. Like, I'm assuming pheasants are a lot like turkeys. Like a 2-year-old pheasant's probably a pretty old one, but like 2 months of shotguns and dogs can educate a bird real quick.
Oh yeah, they know where the dudes park, and that's what I was telling my dad. Is like, man. And it is what it is. The guys are getting tired and stuff like that. But I was like, we're pretty much just walking the same circle that everybody that pulls up to this particular public land walks with their dogs. So like that's why we're jumping hens only a lot of times, So it was, it's just one of those deals where that's what it was. But we did go back to that field the next day and shot a few. I should have doubled. Oh my good. It was one of those deals where I pulled the trigger on the second pheasant that came up, second rooster, and he was probably 30-yard shot, and I couldn't believe that he didn't go down. I mean, it just I had just shot one. I pull over to this guy and I'm on him and I shoot and nothing happens. So I'm like, what in the world? And I was shooting my double, so that was all I had. But man, it was a fun trip overall. Really, the birds were awesome. My dad and I got to hunt a covey by ourselves. It was really cool. I'll tell the story as well. We're going to walk this corner of this particular public. It's pretty open, but there's like a tree and some thicker grass in this corner up by the road kind of. So we're like, oh, we'll just walk into that corner and see if we can bust anything out. Well, when we turn across the street or across the road or whatever, there's I see a bob in the corner right next to the culvert. And I'm like, hey, keep going. So we go like 75 yards down, and I'm like, we have to walk across this road and down this road and across the next road, basically, to get to the public anyway. So, if we're going to shoot that bird, then, maybe he'll jump over there. And so we get out, we walk over there. I'm like, hey, these birds might be going under this culvert because there was milo on one side of the road and grass.
They were walking through the culvert?
I'm not 100% sure, but I can see that being the deal.
Whoa.
When we went up to the road, that bob busted and jumped over, just really right over the road and landed on next to the other culvert. So my dad and I ducked down real low and walked real fast across the road. And when we got to the public, as soon as we stepped foot, as soon as we're coming up onto it and walking onto it, the whole covey is right next to the culvert on the other side. And so they jump up. We're on public, and so we let them have it. We killed two, and that was it was just an awesome deal. Everything just worked out really cool, and it was nice. Me and my dad just got to do it instead of
It's cool.
Yeah. Not that I want to exclude anybody because they were excluding us, but that's a different story. No, anyway, it was a lot of fun, man. But the real fun was really the camp, man. Just sharing the camp experience, dude. We had another guy who played guitar really well, Rod, who played guitar in camp. And so knowing that, Drew told me to bring my guitar. So we jammed a little bit. And I'm always weird about that. I don't like singing in front of people. It's American culture kind of gets weird when people sing sometimes, when it's not in a formal singing setting, like a concert or whatever. And so I didn't want to do that really. It's kind of just one of those deals where just weird. So anyway, the second night, I guess it was, Rod pulled his guitar out, I pulled my guitar out, we started jamming a little bit. We played Ain't No Sunshine, which you were singing earlier when we were messing around. And then they asked me to play a couple of mine. So I played a couple, and I sold Handy some songs on iTunes. I played one there. Man, that's a good song. I was like, well, it's on iTunes if you want to go buy it. You know what I mean? I didn't feel bad at all because Handy's fine buying a couple 99-cent songs. But there was just a lot of fun stuff going on, man. Drew brought a bunch of fish, so we did fish fry.
I heard he doesn't know how to cook fish, right?
I mean, that's what he acted like. I don't know. He made me and my dad cook it. But I did a beer battered shrimp, which, by the way, guys, if you've never done one, it's really easy. You can look up anything online, and it was really good. I thought it was awesome. And we used Drew had Modelo, so a Special. So
fancy.
I don't know if that's the quality of the beer makes a difference. I'm sure it does a little bit.
So they were probably Camarones then.
Oh, what's that?
It's shrimp in Spanish.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. They definitely were, weren't they? Yeah. I thought that was pescador is fisherman, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it a pesca? That's a fish. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
A pesquito.
They're a type of pesca.
Yeah, it all depends on.
They're kind of pesquito for sure. But we didn't have any
cook
pescetti.
Breakfast every morning.
Nearly, yeah.
Yeah.
But he wore his ninja suit one night, which was just the best, dude. My dad was sitting there in the living room talking to me, and my dad loves, Drew's kind of almost like the younger brother to my dad. They love to argue and they love to kind of pick at each other a little bit. And so Drew comes in, and me and my dad are talking, and my dad's got his back to Drew, and he's got his ninja suit on with the full hood and everything. And he's like tiptoeing up to my dad, and he pulls his hand up and he like karate chops the back of his neck. He didn't actually hit him, but like he acted like he was going to. I was dying laughing.
That's funny.
My dad just like, he wasn't having any of it,
That's
anyway,
good.
It's fun, dude. It's fun time for sure.
Well, I don't know if you told me this or not, but did you pull any cameras while you were up there?
No.
No cameras.
I wanted to, but man, it's hard when you have like, a bunch of guys, and I didn't have my truck up there. I rode with my dad, so it was like,
It's hard to do anything that's slightly out of the group thing when you're in deer camp or whatever camp.
Right. Yeah. For sure. So I didn't get to do that, and I don't know. Like I videoed this whole thing the best I could. I didn't get a ton of shots, like kill shots on video, because some of the pheasant stuff wasn't like I just wasn't ready. They just jumped up all of a sudden, or whatever. And then I actually never got behind dogs that were pointing.
Really?
They only pointed like 3 or 4 coveys, I think, or something like that. And so I thought, well, these dogs will point the birds, and then I'll just turn my GoPro on my head and do it. And that, like, I never had dogs point. Even the first covey that we busted that I was telling you about, at the first place, that was we had seen the covey come from out in the field and land out in front of us like 150 yards. So, and the dogs never pointed them. They jumped up. It was just crazy, man. I don't know what it was. They're good dogs. I'm not saying anything about the dogs. They're well trained and everything, but they did point a couple times, but I wasn't with them when they did that. I would be like going and getting a truck or something like that for everybody, So anyway, it was a lot of fun though, man.
Sounds like a good time.
Anyway, I was kind of long-winded for bird talk, but it was. I had a blast. I mean, honestly, like it was a good wrap up to a hard, cold deer season. I mean, it was cold, but like it was just a lot of fun, and we didn't get after it too hard. We didn't get up early. We didn't go to sleep too late. We didn't hunt till it was dark, or anything. I mean, it was a good time, man.
Yeah.
So I'm glad my wife let me go, and I got to go and everything.
Well, I'm sad I didn't get to go. Maybe next year we'll be able to actually shoot a couple deer a little bit earlier and be able to just run around and have some fun like that. That would be cool. So that kind of helps us kind of transition into what we wanted to talk about today as far as, there's the general questions and stuff that we get throughout the season. First question.
Okay.
All right. Do you ever get so frustrated just trying to grind it out with archery equipment that you just pick up your gun and things fall into place?
I mean, for me, I haven't necessarily done that, I don't guess.
Yeah.
I've killed a lot of deer late in December over the years. And, I mean, there's been a lot of years, guys, where basically the only place I'm hunting is Kansas just because I don't have anywhere to hunt locally. And so I just am really I got one tag, essentially.
And what that means, too, is that you can't just pick up the gun. In Texas, you can decide to go get your gun instead or whatever, right? But in Kansas, you're restricted to one means or the other.
Yeah, there's a short rifle season, and so we go with archery equipment, and so I have kind of got to, and like I've never had an opportunity really to, at least in a long time, to just pick up the gun in rifle season. But I know that that's probably coming from a Texas listener that has that opportunity. And I don't condone that at all, man. Like or condemn that at all. If that's what you want to do and it makes you happy, man, I'm all about it. Like I honestly, I've got a ton of points in Colorado for deer, and I'm thinking about, I'm going to go mule deer, with those points. I've been looking at my hunts a lot lately, and as much as I would like to go up there and use these points and shoot a big old toad with archery equipment, if I hunt like the rut hunt, it's like 5 days. I'm probably going up there with a rifle. You know what I mean? So I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I mean, it's just, dude, it's hunting, man. It's fun. Do what you want. I don't know. If you're getting frustrated, then make it easier on yourself. And one day when you've shot a ton of rifle deer, you can not do that if you want to. You know,
I can tell you, like, my version of that is, well, on Texas public too. If you're a public hunter in Texas, a lot of times on these WMAs, you're not allowed to use anything but archery equipment for deer, so you don't really have that option. But like I think that kind of that in a different sense is picking up a shotgun and going and shooting birds or squirrels or rabbits or whatever, just taking a day away from whitetail and to just do something that's fun and easy and a little bit like nostalgic somewhat, you know. It'll kind of help ground you and then also let you get back to having fun, you know, because, I mean, in all honesty, like, hunting deer is fun. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to do. But you can end up making it not fun after about day 15 or whatever. You know, it gets
day
pretty,
2 if it's cold.
Yeah, it gets pretty tough. So, like, sometimes you got to make sure you're having fun doing something.
Yeah, I agree, man.
So, you talked about, you know, hunting in Kansas. And this year you hunted Iowa. You hunted all over Texas. I've done some of that and been on most of all those trips and been to some places you haven't. Not this year, but in the past. Aging deer. We've got some questions about aging deer, and I feel like as a non-biologist, sometimes it's really tough, but it's something that might be important to you if you actually care about like the trophy aspect or management on your property or whatever. How do you feel about aging deer around here? Like if you want to say like the eastern half of Texas, it gets pretty tough to age deer on the hoof, I think. What do you think are some factors for aging deer around here?
They definitely, I don't know. This would be a good question for our friend Cody, because he gets to hunt some older deer, and he hunts them. He doesn't shoot a whole lot of them because he's always trying to make sure they're basically like he wants them to pretty much be 6, and so like at that point, I mean it's pretty obvious that deer is what you would consider mature, like for sure 5 years old, right? Like I think that once they get to like 5 or 6, it's probably similar to other places in the country where they just kind of get a little bit pot-bellied and sway back, you know. But like once they get over 5, it's hard to tell how old they actually are, and then under that, you know, 3 and 4 can oftentimes look pretty similar. And I think that one thing people underestimate, but also is not a like given thing, but I think rack size generally you can make a guess based off of rack size a lot of times,
especially where we live. Yeah, like you're just not going to have very many Pope and Young 2-year-olds running around here. You go somewhere, other parts of the country, that's a thing that can happen. You really need to look at other things, but like you see a deer that's especially got good mass and good time length in a wide rack, like he's probably going to be a pretty old deer. Yeah. You know? Yeah, that's for sure a good point, man. The mass is a big deal. The thing that I've ran into is that's I think even more difficult is judging age, like when you get down to hill country. I just feel like they're all the same size deer, man. It's tough. The one thing that I've seen that's continuous pretty much for any deer that's not a Midwestern type deer is that the hoof size is a thing. Like I learned a lot from my parents' neighborhood, and they live, you know, in a neighborhood on a lake where there's a ton of deer that don't really get hunted. And every mature buck I see run through there usually has like these big clodhopper feet. And that might not always be the case, but it seems like you take that and then like you go to the hill country where, you know, 150-pound deer on the hoof is a pretty good size animal. Like those deer, they're all going to kind of have doe necks and they're all, you know, all this stuff. But those feet seem to always grow big on the bigger animals. And all the other factors can add it in there too. But what's interesting to me is that there's always outliers. There's always a deer, like, I mean, we talk about hog body all the time in Kansas, right? There's always this deer that makes you question everything you knew, right? Like you saw him when he was probably 8, right?
Yeah,
and
I mean, for sure. Like, dude we called him hog body because we had pictures of him, and he looked like the oldest tank of a deer that you ever had seen. Well, when I saw him in person for the first time, amongst other does, he was smaller than the does.
Mm-hmm.
He was just built like a 55-gallon drum. He's old. He was, for sure.
Yeah.
But, like, he also was a midget deer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally a midget deer. It was the craziest thing ever. I remember I was like, heck, this deer of, like, my dreams is now a laughing thing. Like, it's something that I'm laughing at now. Like, what?
Yeah. So, you hunted a lot of public in Texas this year. We get a lot of questions about where to find public land in Texas, and some people are like, there is public land in Texas, and some people are like, oh, there's plenty of public land in Texas. It's somewhere in the middle right there. Mm-hmm. Texas Parks and Wildlife has some resources. They're okay if you can find them. Their website's a little hard to navigate sometimes.
Yeah.
OnX is always going to be probably maybe not always, but for right now, OnX is the king of finding that public land stuff. You got to pay for the premium membership. But
then you have to cross-reference it to know that if it's actually open to walk in on,
yes,
essentially.
Exactly. If
Or
it's
if
actually
a draw.
open to hunt or draw, or sometimes there's public land that just doesn't have any access to it, which is a whole nother separate Texas issue altogether. But I think that would be my answer for finding some public land in Texas. Mm-hmm. Also, there's the really old school way works pretty good in Texas too. If you call your regional Texas Parks and Wildlife office, they usually have a pretty good idea of where you could hunt if you're looking for a place to hunt around the house.
Right,
so
right.
You got anything else?
Oh, not really. No. I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. I would say, you could ask for the booklet, I guess.
Yeah.
You could call and ask them to send you a public land booklet, and they would do that. I would definitely say that we are not going to tell you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, what public spots would you check out in North Texas, Tyler?
Oh, let me just tell you, I check them all out, actually. I check all of them out.
Yeah, my answer to that, like Tyler said, we're sorry, guys, we love you, every single one of you, but we're not going to tell you like our spots. Mm-hmm. It's just not something that we feel like doing. We've worked really hard to find it. But if you want to ask us how to find a spot or what kind of stuff to look at, more than happy to give you our opinion. We're not experts on about near anything. But I would tell you, just as a general statement, if you are in an area of Texas or anywhere in the country and you want to hunt public land, start with the spots close to home. Mm-hmm. Because those are the places you're going to be able to get to know a lot better. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to travel and go have some fun and have really low expectations, go somewhere and just try a new place for a weekend or something. Mm-hmm. But if you want to scout and hunt public land, like the way to do is to hunt the same place as much as you can to where you can get a feeling for it. Kind of like you would a lease, right? Mm-hmm. But you're just not the only person on it and you can't run corn feeders.
Sure. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. I think that is a great point. I mean, we did the same thing in Nebraska that you just said. We traveled to a place we had never been, and we had super low expectations, and we killed a velvet spike. You know what I mean? It was a ton of fun.
Yeah. So how do you find like a good place to go out of state?
Is this you asking me, or is this a question from a listener?
This is a question from a listener.
Okay. A good place to go out of state?
Yeah.
Man, dude, I think that there are anything in the middle of America, just about any state that you want to go to in the middle of America is going to be probably better than most of the places on the east, southeast, Texas, and out west even. But there probably some pretty cool stuff out west as well that hasn't been super tapped because people love mule deer out there.
And this is probably with public land glasses on, I would imagine, too, right? Because in Texas, there's some bad-to-the-bone places to hunt that are private. But if you want to go out of state and just have some land to go to that you don't have to pay anything for, anywhere.
Yeah. Well, another thing about Texas is, I mean, even if you wanted to throw in like the permission side of things, which we do a lot, it ain't gonna happen in Texas. Mm-hmm. I mean, I literally have lived here my whole life, and I've Cody's given me permission to kill deer on his property. That's it. Mm-hmm. Nobody. I came back from college asking for 2 years, couldn't get anybody to let me hunt deer or even hogs. Anyway. So as far as like permissions and public goes, if you're going to go out of state, you probably also stand a better chance in the middle of America of getting some permission type stuff, or even out west, maybe. I don't know.
How did you decide in Nebraska that was a good place to go?
I found a place that was like 10.5 hours from home, which is about, it's getting close to the max that I really wanted to go, because then you'd be driving for more than one day. And then also pretty cheap and over the counter. So I was not, so, you have to put in for 2 to 5 years, Iowa to draw, depending on where you want to go. As far as, there are other states that are pretty reasonably priced that have big chunks of public. Ohio is one that I've been looking at a lot.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned price. Is that a big factor whenever you're looking at a state?
It was this year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know how much I spent on the Iowa tag if you include all my years of putting in.
But that's for a different quality animal with a different expectation.
Yeah, and that's something, that I don't know if we address it much or not, but maybe not. But, you're also looking for, if you're looking for the biggest buck, then you probably have to pay a little more for it overall most of the time. So,
or get really lucky or be really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, we know killers, like Tony Treach had on the podcast, like that dude goes to every state and kills giant deer. But
he also spends a lot of time out.
He does, man. But he's a different cat. If you're a person who's looking to go have some fun, I would say one of the things you need to make sure you do when you're going out of state is to just be happy shooting a deer. If you can probably go find a deer.
Well, I figured out real quick that in Nebraska, within the first or second day, I was like, I'm killing a 2.5-year-old because I see what's here, and a 3.5-year-old where I was at was not something I hadn't seen. I didn't see one the whole trip, and I was there 5 days. So, expectations, managing expectations, but also knowing that like if you're going to go to a state and spend and try to kill a big deer, and you're going to spend a lot of money on it, you have to be okay not killing a 3-year-old probably. You know what I mean? And that's fine. Like people have been up in arms about. You talking about me passing a certain deer, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I've already killed a few this year. And, I spent $500 on this tag.
It's like when I went to Iowa with you, we were there for 8 days, almost got to shoot a 5.5-year-old plus.
Yeah.
And, you passed some 3-year-olds and, you have to be willing to do that whenever you go on a trip like that. Like you got to understand what's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
What are you wanting to do? And quite honestly, if you're wanting to just go shoot some deer and you're one of those people like, I like the meat, if you're that kind of guy, don't go to Iowa.
No,
don't spend that money.
$600 plus all the points that you put in for. Yeah. Don't do it.
Yeah,
that's exactly right, man. Like if you're going to go and be okay shooting a 2-year-old, then don't go spend $600. Don't go to Kansas and spend $500. I mean, granted, you go to Kansas and spend $500 if you want to, if it's not a whole lot of money to you, and you'll kill a 2-year-old pretty quick, probably. There's a good opportunity, a lot of deer for you to kill 2.5-year-old, but there are cheaper ways to do it for sure. And I mean, Nebraska's one. Like I said, I didn't kill a 2.5-year-old, but I think if I went to another part of the state, I definitely could have.
Yeah.
So,
for sure. Tyler.
Yeah.
We have a lot of listeners who only absorb element content from one source. How can they subscribe to all of the things we have going on? We actually have questions like this. How do I subscribe? So how do they subscribe?
That's a tough question, but I mean, you can find a lot of stuff from our website. But as far as just keeping in touch with us,
theelementwild.com.
Yeah, theelementwild.com is our website. As far as keeping in touch with us, you like us on Facebook, you follow us on Instagram, and you subscribe on YouTube, but then you also have to hit the bell to get notifications. So if you subscribe, you'll only randomly see stuff from us every once in a while. But if you hit the bell, you'll get videos, or you'll get updates every time we upload a video, which is, we've still got a lot of deer hunting content coming out right now,
which is cool.
Yeah, I know. It's a little slower than some brands out there, I guess, right now. But but it's also pretty cool that people are still getting new videos here in January.
That's right.
So
if you haven't subscribed to YouTube, it's a good time to go do it because the next video is going to have a giant buck on it. I know. So that we got real close to.
A so sad story. So sad.
So this year you switched up your arrow and broadhead stuff quite a bit. And what did you shoot this year?
I shot a day 6 setup. I shot your arrows.
Yep.
And
did better with them than I did.
Well,
no fault of the arrows.
No, I I just had easier shots, man, and I got I shot 100 grain, the 100 grain day 6 heads as well. Yeah, that's what I did. I was shooting a lighter setup, and Brian sent me some heads, so I shot them with your arrows, and I mean, overall the results were good.
Did you like shooting them? You gonna shoot them again next year?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. I still, you know, I don't know. I'm a traditionalist or whatever. Like I have a hard time changing. Are you getting the lawnmower out this year? No, definitely not doing that. I have a recurve and I can shoot it. I actually shot my wife on it, so that's pretty cool. But I might stay with them for sure. But I mean, based off the results this year, I might be dumb to change, but just depends on what all I go after this year. They're heavy arrow, and so. My pins are like maxed out on my sight right now. They are. Like the pin gap, you know. And so there's that. I was a little bit, you know, I don't know. It's weird because I killed every deer very quickly that I shot at this year with them, but there was not a whole lot for blood trail. I didn't blood trail the doe that I shot because, I mean, she literally ran 40 yards and tipped over backwards. So I just came in from the other direction when I went to get her in the cart. In my truck and everything, and so I don't know exactly how much blood there was there. I know there's a lot on every arrow that I shot, but I mean, there was not a ton of blood on the animals, and I hit both the bucks I shot. It came out like the exit was literally in. It's like where the elbow is. It was like in that crevice, you know, basically right in the elbow, basically, and I think there's a lot of loose skin there. Yeah, but there was like no exit blood.
I feel like you had like an anomaly of where you hit all your deer, where it's like it's just the spot you're not going to get a lot of blood trail from. Yeah. But let's see, 2 of your deer died in sight, and the third one you saw when you got down the stand. Right, so like, things went pretty good.
Yeah, it was for sure. Like they killed good, you know. And I think that I've always thought shot placement is very important. I mean, it's chiefly
I'll tell
important.
You it is, because I was 2 inches away from recovering a Kansas deer this year and lost him because I shot him high.
And that's, I mean, ultimately, like, you could probably shoot a field tip through something if you hit them right, and they would die pretty quick. You know what I mean? So that, and I don't want to like discredit the arrows or the broadheads or anything. I just am putting a high value on shot placement. So the setup worked very well, for sure.
Yeah. So, somebody asked, what are Texas deer doing in October, especially on public land? Let me know when you find out, because I'd really like to know.
Give them the old Lindsey Thomas answer.
Something. I've got some thoughts on this. Okay. That's when acorns start to fall, and it seems like to me too, you can't like look at a calendar and be like, oh, acorns fall October 18th through the 24th. Like, there's been some years we've had acorns fall in September, and then this year it felt like it was like early November when the acorns fell. Yep. So. October was actually a really good month to hunt in Texas this year. I didn't get to do it as much as I wish I would have. And October 23rd was a magical day, actually. That's like the best cold fronts we had were in late October, which is when you want them.
The year before, the 24th, I think, right in their same deal.
Oh, like, yeah, that's right. We had the camera info from that. Yeah. I think, here's my take. Whenever I read this question, cold fronts are good, but October cold fronts are the best. Like a cold front in December doesn't do near as much for you as a cold front in late October. That's when deer are like, oh, yeah, this is the time. And then you got cold fronts in December when deer are like, it's supposed to be cold this time of year, but I might get up 10 minutes earlier. Like, it's night and day difference. So I think that deer in October, especially on public in Texas, because you don't have that aspect of corn or ag or whatever, they're going to be probably hitting some type of oak tree or even persimmons, right? There's that draw too. Some type of mast crop is going to be attracting deer at that point in time. And I also think that in late October especially, you can definitely, even though it's Texas, get into some pre-rut action and have, rattling, grunting, all that kind of stuff can work. Yeah. And scrapes, man. Yeah. Scrapes are where it's at.
I would say October, you want to find a place to hunt for sure. I mean, I know guys are itching to get out that time of year, but I would say that, and this is opposite of what a lot of probably big buck killers tend to say, but I wouldn't go into a spot that's iffy at all. Like I would say don't go blow a spot out in October because, I mean, it's fun to get out there, but dude, mid-November in our experience is like, I mean, we're at least here in East Texas, like, dude, if you sit a good spot, 3 to 5 days in a row, like you're going to kill, you know what I mean? It's going to happen. So like, I would just say don't blow a spot out because if you can go sit in mid-November, November 15th or so, dude,
yeah.
We didn't get to spend any days in Texas woods those days this year because of Iowa, basically. I mean, we were in Kansas some too, but like Iowa was the extra X factor this year. So, yeah, that's just a little side note to what you said.
What about this? Is what I danced around and didn't answer. The question was October, and I said late October because that's when I actually have a good answer.
Yeah, no.
We have not found a solution for early October yet. People call it the lull. I think that's kind of more of a Midwest thing. I think for here, it's just the fact that it's usually still 100 degrees in early October. I think that maybe this season we might try to hunt water more because we hung a camera over water and had pretty good early October movement to that water source.
Good September especially.
Yeah.
And then some early October. I feel like opening day would be like, 'cause it seemed like maybe, and it was only one camera, which is, I wish I had more data, but on that particular camera, like once October came, it started to become a trend that they weren't there as much. You know what I mean? So I feel like the earlier in the season, the better for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was some daytime footage or pictures too.
Here's the thing for me with October is I don't think that the traditional knowledge of evenings in October is always a way to fly. It almost seems to me like mornings are a better deal because where we live, man, at sunset it could be 98 degrees.
Oh, so hot, dude.
But until about 8 or 8:30, it's going to be in the high 60s, low 70s most likely. So deer, at least you're going to feel like being on their feet a little bit more in the mornings. But maybe that's not when they're going to hit water. I don't know. Run cameras is I guess the best answer.
Yeah, and that's the thing that a lot of people want, like a quick solution. And really, it's just like a few years of experience can really give you an edge the next year. So just run as many cameras as possible and try to learn deer.
Yeah. If you're going to go to a new property, what are your first couple steps when it comes to scouting and getting ready to hunt a new place?
I mean, this is what everybody says, start with the maps, I usually start with the map. One thing that I really learned this year, and I started learning this from a person that I met on Texas Public, that anytime that you see multiple types of terrain or habitat on an aerial coming together, like it's a funnel of sorts. You know what I mean? Almost always. So, like for instance, when I was hunting, this guy was like, "Hey, have you checked this out on the map?" I was looking at this, and he was calling it a pinch or whatever. It's just kind of something, but it wasn't really a pinch. It was just where things kind of came together. And I hunted there and killed a doe there the next day. Not exactly what he was saying, but very close. Because I got to go, I went in there and I found with boots on the ground, kind of found my actual location of stand. But I'm definitely I think you can a lot of times look for habitat coming together. Edge is an easy one. I mean, if you're hunting public stuff, then you're going to have to be prepared to walk into a place that you can see from an aerial that looks good and go, there's 3 stands in here. I mean, that happens in Texas. If you can see it in Texas on the map, where we hunt, there's going to be a stand there.
Yeah.
Like we've found that in the last couple of years so many times.
But that doesn't mean that deer aren't still using it.
Right. No,
That's
exactly.
the thing. I think that one of the things that you need to prepare for in that is if you're going to be the guy who hunts those funnels, you need to be able to hunt on a Tuesday.
Yes, and see what the sign, the people sign looks like. Is there a fresh boot track in there or not? You know, it's a good point. And to further that point right there, I went out with Texas Parks and Wildlife several years ago. They were going to do electro shocking survey on Lake Fork, and they do it at night. And I was like, hey, can I go out and just video y'all and just hang out, you know, whatever? They're like, sure. So I went out and basically following around in my dad's boat, and we went to so many places, and like lots of places were areas that I never really saw people fish, and we didn't shock any fish. I mean, like no bass. And then we go into at the end, we hardly shocked any bass. And they go doing this, they're doing random spots. It's like randomly computer generated spots. So at the end, they were like, hey, before we put the boat up, right over here, you know, in this little corner by the bridge, we always used to shock fish over here. So just let's go shock it and see, you know, if anything floats up, and just you can get a couple of videos or whatever. I mean, I never even did anything with this video, but they were just trying to be nice, you know, and let me see some fish. And we went into this little pocket, and, you know, it's a place that it's got docks lined throughout it. It's an RV park, next to an RV park. There are like 3 marinas in this cove, like people everywhere all year, every spring since 1980. You know what I mean? Been in this place. And we shocked up so many bass, dude, up to like 6 pounds. I mean, good fish, you know, solid slot fish and stuff in there. All throughout this tiny little cove. And I was like, man, that kind of like made me change my thinking to what you're saying is like, you know, sometimes people fish spots a lot because there's a lot of fish in there and they catch them in there.
Yeah.
And so like you may have to fish for the fish that didn't bite the first time around, or he pulled it out before they hit it or whatever, you know what I mean? Sometimes. And so like, because I'm always like, man, I just want to go where nobody else is. You know, I want to find that secret spot. And on Lake Fork, there are no secret spots.
No,
everybody knows. I mean, somebody knows every spot pretty much. So, you know, same with on the public lands in Texas, like what we were just talking about. There are 3 stands in there because one guy killed a deer in there last year, and another guy saw a big buck in there a month ago. You know, I mean, that's what happens. So, you know, can you be in there when nobody's hunted it recently?
Yeah. I think some general things about how to scout and then hunt a brand new property. Let's just talk public, and then maybe we'll talk a little private there. So, riparian systems, follow the creeks. Deer are going to follow the creeks. You know, main creek and feeders.
Yeah, killed on a creek.
Yeah,
walking down the creek.
They're just going to do it. It's just it's a deer highway because really it's a major funnel is what a creek is. They don't cross them except every once in a while, and then you can go deep or you can go real shallow. Those are the 2 things. I'm just going to leave it at that for Texas Public for some general things. Use trail cameras, but don't rely on them. And don't be afraid to just pick up and move somewhere else whenever you see too much people or whatever. Now, for hunting and scouting a brand new private place, it's a lot different. You need to first think about.
It's exciting.
It is exciting. If you're the only person that gets to hunt it, it's super exciting.
Ooh, baby.
Especially if nobody around it's hunting that much. You need to think about your long-term versus short-term. If you think it's going to be a one-year deal, or if you think it's like, you know, hey, I married this girl and her dad has 200 acres, so you lucky son of a gun. Like if it's that scenario, you really need to do your due diligence and you know, take some time, maybe hunt the fringes for a season.
Yeah, observation.
You know, and just watch and see how the deer use the property, and then, you know, maybe you can kill a big buck that year, or at least set yourself up for the next year. If it's short term, I'd say
bomb in,
put you a giant corn pile right in the middle of it, and hunt. You know what you need to make sure of, and I'm struggling with that on my own personal property, is that outside of one major wind direction, it's real hard to hunt my place. So if you're going to use bait, make sure that you've got good access to that bait, whatever that might be, because if you got to walk past where the deer are bedding to get to your stand, it ain't going to work out good for you. So I think that's the way to hunt a private place. And honestly, don't be afraid of box blinds. I think that deer get used to them pretty quick, and you can get away with a lot of movement inside of a box blind. You know, I haven't done it much, but I can just tell, man, it works.
Yeah. Also, even if you don't see something and you see a lot of tracks, I mean, there's something going on there. I just pulled a camera on public here in Texas that you and I got to look through at different times. Had like 1,300 pictures on it. Of course, it had been out months and months since the summer. We hung this camera not far from the road after bombing in like 3/4 of a mile and coming back. And we were like, okay, we got to get this camera out somewhere. We didn't really find a place that looked great. We were like, let's just not put it too far from the road and just find like, you know, what we call a deer movement area or whatever, you know, where deer just kind of move through an area. Well, we get up, you know, 1/3 of the mile from the truck on the road, and there's quite a few tracks in this deer movement area. It's literally like creek bottom, river bottom type country where there's really like no grass or hardly anything growing in the understory, and it's just like, you know, 20-foot cedar elms and ashes and that kind of thing. But there's like a lot of tracks in this particular area, and none of them are on a trail at all. And so we were like, okay, well, let's just face it from this edge inward where all these tracks are, and hopefully it'll pick up deer out there. And dude, it was one of the best trail camera pulls we've had on public. There was several shooters in there, lots of deer walking in front of the camera. There was a deer in there the first night we hung it. That never happens. You know, like, I mean, it was good, dude. So, you know, if there's a bunch of tracks, there's something going on there, put a camera on it and try to learn from it, you know?
Yeah,
so.
I think it's a good point too, man. Don't be afraid to throw a camera somewhere you don't even intend to hunt that year, just so you can learn something maybe for next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Hope that helps.
Yeah. What church do y'all go to? Well, we are both Christians, so we'll put it that way. We're all members of the body. Traditionally, I grew up going to a Church of Christ. You know, I think that's just where I go. I don't. What am I trying to say here? I'm not really tied to a denomination, to tell you the truth of the matter. It's just where I grow up. It's the people I know and love right now, and I think that there's a lot of folks in a lot of places doing good stuff.
Yeah, I'm technically our church is Southern Baptist. It's called Believers Baptist Church in Emory, and you know, it's same way. Like you and I have talked pretty extensively about beliefs and these kind of things, and like, I mean, our churches are. Other than the fact that we have musical instruments on stage, like there's nothing else different hardly. You know, like you perceive things the same way I do and interpret things in the Bible that way as well. So those are I saw maybe that was the same question, but I saw a recent question that was that. So.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Honestly, find you a place that loves Jesus and read the gospel, read the good news, and read the letters, and read the Old Testament, and then draw from that what you will, and just do your best to live a good life.
Sure.
You know, like it's a whole lot less about where you're at on Sunday mornings, and a whole lot more about what you're doing with the other 23 hours and 6 days of your life.
Sure,
so,
yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, for 100%, you know, just there's a lot of good ways to get the truth right now. It's a good time to be trying to glean the truth, but it's also pretty easy to get false teaching as well. So
is that,
you know what I mean?
Woo!
So just
Scary.
be sure that what's said in the Bible is what you're hearing, what you're listening to, because people will definitely try to lift themselves up and make man God essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Ooh, scary stuff.
Yeah.
All right, less scary duck hunting content, Tyler.
What about it?
Yeah, when you going to do some?
Oh, dude.
Oh, you did, didn't you?
I did a little bit.
Yeah.
It was actually Star Wars and some ducks crashed the party. So, no, we did a duck video recently that I think I released it too close to Christmas or something. Nobody really watched it.
Yeah. It's a cool video.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, the thing with ducks is like, I might be wrong on this, but there's not really Boone and Crockett ducks.
No.
Right?
There's bands and then, you know, a couple of species that people regard highly.
Otherwise, it's just like some dudes having fun working dogs, working birds, and things falling from the sky. Mm-hmm. So go watch the video because it's a lot of fun. But it's just really hard to have a super special duck hunt unless it's like your On Fire video from last year where there's a much deeper story behind it. You should also go watch that.
Yeah, go watch that. It's the actual video thumbnail is a picture of a match, a shotgun shell, and a Bible. So it's pretty cool. But I think definitely people don't look at that and go, "Oh, this is a duck hunt I want to watch."
Yeah.
So I may have messed up by not putting a thumbnail that lets people know what it is. But sometimes I like to get a little bit artistic, and I thought that was a pretty cool thing. So
it was a cool thing, man.
Anyway.
Okay, so this is a two-parter. A lot of y'all are awesome, and you're super humble, and you're super hospitable, and you want to invite us to go do stuff, and never stop doing that, please, because it feels so awesome that you think that for some reason you'd want to spend some time with us, and we'd like to spend some time with you. However, here's the deal, y'all. I'm not saying we never would, so never stop inviting us to do stuff, and we'll try to invite y'all to do stuff too. But I'm going to speak for myself, and I'll let Tyler agree if he wants to, but we're pretty pressed for time being family guys, and we do about near everything we can outdoor-wise anyways. So it's don't feel bad or feel like we don't like you if we tell you, man, I just can't make that happen right now.
Yeah.
Because it's not a lie. Mm-hmm. It's not you're not big enough, or you're, I don't know what the deal would be. I don't want to shoot squirrels. No, it's not the case. I love to shoot squirrels. Mm-hmm. But, it's just pretty hard for us to find an extra day somewhere to go do something. So I'm very sorry if we tell you, man, we just can't make it happen. Don't take it the wrong way, because we so much appreciate those invites and stuff like that. And honestly, a little part of it is like, I don't ever want like our platform to really be a way where we get to do stuff that we don't really deserve to get to do either. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think this is just what we're trying to do here is just say we're sorry that we haven't been able to go on many hunts with you guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, this week, just in particular, I've got so many things. You lead a youth class on Wednesdays, and you got to be there on Sundays most of the time. I'm doing the same this year with, I got, worship practice on Wednesdays, and we got Sunday, I got to lead it, and that's going to be a thing for a lot of weekends this year probably. And so you add that on top of being gone with hunting season recently, and, Christmas, and then youth sports, and, your wife's got a busy job and everything too, so you want to spend time with her when she has free time.
And we're about to have a baby, so
exactly.
Even less likelihood that I'm going to get to hunt with you this year, guys.
Yeah. So, we're just trying to make excuses and let you know that we're sorry that we don't want you guys to feel big leagued or anything.
Yeah, it's never that.
What did Brian call it? High-hatted or something like that?
That's pretty good, man. So along with that, we've had a couple people reach out to us and say they'd love to do a big buck breakdown with us. And never stop sending your pictures of deer, because it really helps me to realize how I'm not a very good hunter. But I just love looking at pictures of dead stuff, man. Like big bucks and the story and everything. I love it when y'all write to us and tell us the stories and send us the pictures and all. But on those big buck breakdowns, what we really try to do is do those with people that we know really well, or are at least close acquaintances that we've met through the hunt industry or whatever. So don't feel bad if we say, nah, probably not, because it's just not fun to get to know somebody over the phone.
Right.
Honestly, in full candor, we do it for our standard episodes pretty often. Like we'll interview a biologist that we don't really know, because they are considered experts in their field or whatever, and we get to know them through and it's not always my favorite thing to do. I'd much rather get to know somebody on a personal level, and then hey, come on the podcast, which we get to do that a lot, like our last episode with Lindsey Thomas. It's just buddies having fun and talking about things we love. Fun. Oh, my gosh, It's so good. So don't feel bad if we say no. Let's just try to stay in touch and build a relationship, and maybe, in the future, we can make that happen.
That's what I told guys is like, hey, maybe we'll meet at an event or something like that sometime. Are you going to be at Dallas Safari Club or whatever? Are you going to be at any shows? Or are you going to go to a BHA night or something like that? I might show up or whatever. I'd be glad to meet guys if I didn't have a whole lot going on, and do that. I just don't want to, because I mean, you and I technically met via the internet. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Thanks.
Wasn't on Tinder.
No, it wasn't on Tinder.
Hank.
So yeah, it was through your brother, I think, brother-in-law on Facebook. So, or maybe it was Cassie. I don't know.
Something. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So like, I think the power of social media is cool with bringing us. It has the power to bring us together and that kind of thing. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Appreciate you guys sending pictures though. Keep doing that. I like seeing it. It gets me juiced, especially when y'all are killing bucks in like October because I haven't killed one yet.
Gives you some motivation to get out.
Oh, dude, it's the best.
Like it's 100 degrees outside, but he just killed a giant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he lives in Minnesota. Okay, I see. It was 60 there today.
We tend to post a lot about Taco Bell, and we get criticized for not eating Allsup's burritos. I'll have y'all know I've never had an Allsup's burrito.
Oh, dude.
And the problem is Tyler Jones doesn't let me have Allsup's burritos because I've never got to eat one because he always ends up walking behind me. I don't know. We just kind of have this thing. I think that I'm usually the guy with the map. So I'm walking in front, and then Tyler doesn't want to get poison gas while we're walking around. So he doesn't let me eat Allsup's burritos.
And there has been a time, I think, when we were going to do that thing, and I got the last one or something like that.
You son of a gun.
Let me just tell you, Allsup's has some way that there's always only like one or two burritos out there. Maybe it's just I'm always there late at night or something.
That might be it. Did you ever get a official scientific age on Frank?
No, I haven't gotten a scientific piece of Frank yet, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Our buddy Brennan still has him, so I don't know if I'll ever see that head again.
He better. That's all I can say.
Have you seen Steve One or whatever his name is?
Yeah, it's still a skull cap sitting in the living room. Brennan has not mounted his elk yet either. Yeah. Where are we? We are located in Emory, Texas. That's where Tyler and I base our operations out of. What Texas pub do you hunt in your videos, Tyler?
It depends on which video he's talking about.
All of it,
All
right?
of them. Okay, so let me just go through the list here. Not.
We do our best to get out and hunt every piece of public that we possibly can hit within reason. And that doesn't mean any type of radius around home because we've been far from home on some Texas pub hunts. So there's that. Do you collect your own milkweed?
Usually.
Yeah. Usually, we've got green
antelope. You collected a lot.
Yeah, we got green antelope horns around the house. That's kind of the prominent species. It works okay. Common milkweed. If you ever drive through the Midwest at any point in time between August and springtime, there'll be some dry common milkweed pods. That's the way to go because there's so many pods on each plant. It seems like that green antelope horns ones ends up being pretty sticky most of the time, and it still works, but it's not the best. That common milkweed is the way to go.
Yeah, we got a bunch in Iowa.
We got a bunch.
Man, do you have a bunch of it still?
Yeah.
Because I think my kids have been letting it out everywhere. I don't know. Like there's stuff floating around my truck everywhere, but I can't find I've only got one pod, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got one of those quart baggies full of it, so I've got a lot.
Good deal. One of my buddies that is actually an elder at our church, but he's a younger guy. He asked me where we got it, and I was like, I told him, we usually just grab it or whatever. And so I would like to give him some. Which, by the way, he told me a cool story the other day. This is just a side note. He said that he killed a deer because of our podcast.
Well, hot dog.
Yeah, he said that he had been listening and that he had trouble getting bucks like in daylight, I guess, and maybe even at all really coming to his feeder. And so he took the advice of hand corning, and he hand corned 40, 50, 60 yards or whatever away and put a camera up, and he started getting deer showing up in daylight, and he shot one.
That's cool.
Yeah, good buck.
Man.
Yeah. So
lucky guy.
Lucky guy. He is a lucky guy.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, this question is mostly for you.
Oh, no.
Because this is what you are the man at. I want you to break down where all you hunt in Texas. No,
there we go.
What are good public lands?
I was hoping you were going to say weightlifting or something.
No. Camera stuff. When you talk camera stuff, specifically, We're talking about not show cameras, right? So like the stuff we use to video our hunts. why don't you let me just go first because my list is a lot smaller than yours.
What's the question? Is there like an actual question, or is it
I'm combining a bunch of questions.
Okay, I got you.
You know, because people ask what type of cameras we've got, what type of fluid heads, which if you don't know what that is, we'll explain that, and camera arms, which is what you mount your camera to in the tree. What I'm running right now is a Sony AX100. It is a traditional style video camera. It's like a Pro-Am or whatever, so it's like not really something that like someone who videos football games for a living is going to use, but it's also a step above what like you're going to video your kid's soccer game with. It films in 4K. It films in 60 frames per second. Low light's okay, and the zoom is really good. It's a pretty good camera for filming hunts, and it's really lightweight, and it's got really great battery life. Mm-hmm. I like it, but I don't love it, and I think that this offseason I'm going to try to move to something more towards that mirrorless format, which Tyler will get into a little bit more later. So if you're interested in a camera to film your hunts with, that's a pretty good one. Hit me up. I might be willing to let it go. Yeah. And then I also run a GoPro Hero 6, which is the same thing as a GoPro Hero 5 and 7 and 12 and whatever. They're all GoPros, right?
Yeah.
Like the newer ones are touchscreen and they film in a little bit better format and stuff. But that's pretty much the extent of my cameras. Now, tell us about your cameras, and then we'll talk about the arms and stuff that we both use.
Oh, real quick. So one of the cameras that I think we've discussed as being maybe an option for you.
Oh, Cash's camera?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool camera. Talk about that.
Well, I don't remember exactly which one it is.
It's a Lumix or something like
Panasonic
that.
Lumix, I think. I think it's like the $450 one.
Yeah.
And it films in 60 frames per second. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it has 4K or not, but
I think it does.
The zoom is...
Drew got one. So, yeah. It was he had it in 4K format when I messed with it this weekend. Yeah.
So, the zoom is really good. Picture quality is excellent. I'm sure low light is not that great just because of the price. But otherwise, like, talk about a good camera for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's going to do the job.
Like a point and shoot kind of feel a little bit. Like
it's like hand sized pretty much, right? Like it's not.
Yeah.
Big?
I mean, it's technically, it looks like, like what the DSLR cameras look like or whatever.
Yeah.
But the zoom is like a electronic zoom that
toggle switch.
Yeah. And it's like, it'll go way out,
Yeah.
But as far as the low light goes, I don't know this for a fact, but I know that Cash has had trouble with his early morning duck hunt stuff a little bit. He said it just, and I don't know, I was trying to troubleshoot for him, but he's not the most talkative texter. And I was thinking maybe that he was running his ISO too high, but he said basically it looked like almost like cartoon-like. And I thought maybe also if your battery is really cold.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that probably was what it was.
Yeah, so I told him a couple things like that. But, I mean, I don't think it's the greatest of low-light cameras, but it's affordable, and you could do some pretty sick stuff. And we saw a ton of movement in the 8 to 9:30 hours this year, so that's plenty light for sure.
And quite honestly, if you're not trying to, have a high-end YouTube channel or anything like that, and you're just trying to show your friends and family your experience, like, if it ain't in focus or if it's too dark, who cares?
Yeah.
You'll still be able to hear you go crazy after you shoot an animal.
Oh, yeah,
right? So,
for sure. Yeah, that's a good point. And I guess that'll bring me into some of the gear that I have. And we've done a podcast where we talk about a lot of this stuff, I think. But basically, my main camera is a Sony A7S II. It's got about the worst battery life on the market.
The worst.
I mean, it is absolutely horrendous. But I've been running an Anchor, I think it's a 20100 Anchor power source.
We both have that.
Yeah. It's a cool power source. Charges pretty
like
fast.
$40, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
pretty cheap.
Yeah, I think so. It was cheap, man. And that literally, I ran it on the elk hunt, and I mean, when it's plugged, it will plug into that camera and on the side. And so when you're running the camera, it's running off of that power source first, essentially. And then when you turn the camera off and you're walking around chasing elk, it's charging your battery as well.
What's cool is that yours will do that. My camera, the Sony camcorder I have, once you plug that in, it doesn't let you record while it's plugged in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah. And I think a lot of cameras are like that. I think that you got to make sure and get one that will run off of external power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I like the A7S too is it was pretty affordable when I bought it. I don't know what it looks like now. They've got an A7 IV or whatever now, A7R4, I think. And then there's several different A7 models, the Alpha series. And we actually did nameless. We did with the A6300.
Yeah.
Which is a great camera.
This might be A63 or A65 might be what I look at because the battery life's a little bit better and it's fairly affordable.
Yeah,
so.
and the autofocus on those cameras is really good.
So good.
Really good. It's a quick focus. It shoots 4K, shoots 120 frames per second.
Crop sensor is the only thing.
It's a crop sensor, so it doesn't quite get the low light ability that the A7S II is. And not to mention the A7S II, like when you crank that ISO up, it's hard. You can't see the grain. It's outrageous because the reasoning is because it's a 12 megapixel sensor, which is low for a lot of mirrorless and DSLR platforms. So somehow that low megapixel allows it to look like there's less grain, basically. So you can see videos on that. But anyway, the low light capabilities are why I bought the camera, basically. And it also, being that it's more their video style platform, the S series, it'll shoot 120 frames per second, which we use sparingly. But it's cool to have. I also have...
better for trout takes than it is for anything else.
Oh, yeah. Dude, it does some cool... it's got... When you use it, like, when you need it, it's cool, man.
Yeah.
I've got also a camera that'll shoot twice that slow, which is a Sony FS700. If you're not looking to spend some serious dough, don't even listen to the next 15 seconds here. But they don't even, I don't even know if they produce them anymore. But I mean, every indie video shooter out there, a lot of like indie video shooters that want to shoot, like their like side gig is like shooting on some bigger productions, or shooting interviews or stuff like that, have this camera. It's got great battery life. It'll shoot 240 frames per second in full HD. I mean,
doubles as a bazooka.
I carry it around at every wedding to scare people and hurt my back because it's a big camera. But it's got an incredible sensor. I mean, it's still like I'd put the sensor up against anything I've ever shot on, which isn't like a ton or anything, but man, it shoots beautiful footage.
Go watch Rock Trolls if you want to see some sick
FS700.
There's so many letters.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, FS700 footage for Rock Trolls.
Yeah, Rock Trolls.
Any of the stuff we've mentioned, we'll try to link down below. It's going to be a lot of stuff, but we'll try to condense it, especially YouTube videos, because we want you to watch our YouTube videos.
Yeah, we do. But the Rock Troll stuff, all the takes are done with the FS700 pretty much. And then all the B-rolls shot with a 6300 and a 6D, which is another camera. I have a Canon 6D. They make a Canon 6D II now, which I would imagine, and I have seen lots of great reviews. I would imagine it's a great camera. But I shoot all my stills with the Canon 6D. And there's rarely, I do a couple of clips with that 6D sometimes. And sometimes I'm like, man, it's so pretty. I regret not using this more. But it's a dated camera. So the A7S II shoots way sharper footage, I think, now.
Yeah.
Than that Canon does in most settings.
Why do you shy away from shooting stills with the A7S II so much?
It's because it's not as intuitive. The Sony menus and just functions and stuff are not nearly as intuitive as the Canon, in my opinion. And maybe that's because I grew up shooting Canon. But I really do think it's just not as intuitive. Everybody complains about the Sony menu. So it's definitely, if you're going to invest that kind of money to shoot, you need to learn a few things probably and understand some of the stuff. But at some point, I don't want you to be like a researcher. I want you to be a hunter because it's fun. It's more fun.
Don't me?
No, just people like that are listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want them sitting there researching all day when they could be finding public land to hunt or whatever.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
But those are the cameras that I shoot with.
So
the GoPro as well.
All your cameras require a separate lens, as opposed to mine being a camcorder has an internal lens. What is the all around a zoom range that a person's going to need to film hunts with?
Well, I like pretty wide angle shots a lot of times. So I like the ability to have to do that. For the longest time, I had a 24 to 70 millimeter lens. 24 is fairly wide. Your standard film is shot on 35 in Hollywood and stuff.
A 24 typically. You can hold out in selfie mode and get a good size frame of yourself talking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 70 allows you to get some decent footage of a buck when you're shooting it too. So if you got a deer in bow range, then you can get decent footage with a 70. You can also, with some of these cameras, you can crop in with some clear image zoom with the A7S II, or if you're running it in 4K or 120 frame per second, they'll crop in as well. So your 70 turns into 100 or more, maybe. But I've got a lens that is a 24 to 240 that I've been using. It's a Sony, I think, maybe it's not a G series, I can't remember, but it's a Sony lens, native lens for my Sony camera, and that's been clutch. I mean,
that's pretty much that's what you need.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like as super high end as your 70 to 200 or whatever.
It's not. It's a $900 lens or something like that. It
does the job, yeah.
Like it's not a cheap lens. I mean, you can get some lenses that are,
stupid
17 to 300, but it's literally a $300 lens, and it's going to kind of look like Duke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it ain't going to be good. But that lens at 24 to 240 is really nice because we can do all our interviews, and then we can turn around and zoom in on a buck that's 300 yards out there and get decent enough footage to tell what he is.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, though, are using camcorder style video.
Yes,
cameras.
exactly.
They're way easier and cheaper.
Pretty much, there's a line you can cross, and if you want to film your hunts for your friends and family, and everybody sit around and like, man, look at that, like it's just fun to do. Just get a camcorder style thing, and you'll have a lot of fun with it. If you want to kind of get artistic, or you want to maybe have a YouTube channel or whatever, it's a good time to step into maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Do something mirrorless with the external lens and stuff like that. And that's part of the reason why I got the camera I did, is because you already have all the other stuff. My camera's really been great for run and gun style stuff. Like whenever we're on the ground chasing deer around, like with the decoy and stuff, my camera's what we use a lot of times because you flip out the LCD screen and it does everything for you, and you can just hunt.
It's lightweight.
Yeah.
You can zoom it while you're holding it. You don't have to use two hands to zoom it.
Yes, that's a big factor.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah,
that's nice.
It is nice, and so as far as all that goes, like Drury's, lots of these other brands, they use video style cameras. They're just like $3,000 to $5,000+ video style cameras, but they're easy for if these brands have guys that are not super experienced a lot of times running cameras. They'll have some college guy or whatever that wants to come run cameras, or hey, my buddy's I got a huge deer on camera, and my buddy wants to. He said he'll come video me shoot it. We want to be on Drury Outdoors or whoever it is. I'm not just saying, I'm not trying to make any light of that at all, but, they'll send them a camera maybe that's way easier to work than what a DSLR or mirrorless platform
which
is.
would be the camera I have. It's very, very easy to work and shoots good footage. Yeah. So let's hit camera arms and fluid heads a little bit, and then we'll get back to some hunting stuff.
Okay.
So we pretty much have 2 camera arms. We've gone to using really one of those lately, but there's a lot of options out there. We use the Fourth Arrow arms, the carbon arms, the first ones, the original ones. Not so much because the arm is awesome, but the shoulder mount, like the thing that mounts to the tree, is real nice.
Yeah,
it's heavy. It's not that much fun to actually work, especially the one I have. It's called the run and gun model. Do not get that one. It's not run and gun. It's the run the deer off model. It's very loud and clanky, but I've done some mods to make it a little bit better. But anyways, the deal with the Fourth Arrows is that you can mount that thing on about near almost any tree at any angle and make it work.
You could mount it on a branch, guys. Like a horizontal branch, and you can work it.
I've done it, because it's just you mount the bracket horizontally, and then you just take that shoulder and rotate it 90 degrees, and there you go. You are. The only or the big issue with these camera mounts is that you can't do it on a little tree. It has to be a decent sized tree. I've had to double wrap mine a couple times because the strap thing doesn't work good, and then. After that, I don't know. There's not really that big of a problem with them.
Yeah,
right?
I like them.
They're not quite as sturdy, I think, either, as
the Muddy. So we used a Muddy I used a Muddy for a long time, since probably like 2011. And I don't know I don't even know what the model is, or or if they make the same one.
It's called the Pro Arm or something like that.
Yeah, it is something like Muddy Pro Arm or something. But it's like a triangular shaped bracket. So you think about one side going up the tree, one side going 90 degrees out, and then a crossbar from each, from the bottom to the fully out extended part of the bracket. And then the arm goes on top. Super sturdy, requires a fairly straight tree. Or straight part of that tree, which is just not. We can't bank on that anymore.
If you're a Midwestern hunter, you probably, which is where those were developed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're hunting private anywhere, I mean, we could do it on a lot of private pieces around here, and you could just keep that. You can keep it in the stand probably year round. Throw a piece of duct tape over the hole or whatever, just so it doesn't rust. Yeah, so it doesn't rust or whatever. So, but yeah, like those are kind of the two options we've been running. That Muddy is a lot more sturdy because of the engineering. But a lot less adaptable, and the fourth arrow camera arm is a lot less sturdy. And it's not so much the base, I don't think, as it is the arm is just light and flimsy. You know what I mean?
If you notice in some of our videos, don't look too hard, but sometimes it's a little wiggly, and that's because that arm just isn't quite as sturdy, and it's either wind or we're moving, and it moves around some.
Yep.
But they all work pretty good.
Yeah. Well, there's a new arm that we've been looking at. I'm sure it's going to be $5,000, but it's the Lone Wolf camera arm that's coming out, and it looks like a pretty decently engineered setup. It's also designed to be really lightweight, so it could have its issues with steadiness and that.
It definitely isn't going to be holding the FS700. I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. So something I actually watched that video that they did about that arm the other day, and Cody was talking about the type of head he uses, and he actually uses one of those. It's not a fluid head. It's like the kind that has a little screw knob on the side of it, that pivots around. It's kind of interesting. And that's the next thing that we were going to talk about is fluid heads in general. I never used one, but I think I might look at that a little bit this year because I think they're cheaper. But if it's smooth, it would be a pretty nice deal. So this year we kind of ran into a problem. We had one fluid head that was pretty smooth, and we had one that was very durable. And
That's a good way of putting
whenever we were in Iowa, the very smooth one broke on us, like bad, like straight up. If I hadn't have grabbed the camera, it would have fell to the ground bad. So that was but it's been a really good head to us, and I think that we probably misused and abused it some.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so it's the Be Free by Manfrotto.
Yeah.
It's a fairly inexpensive fluid head that has pretty good fluid capabilities, I feel like.
Would you call it fluidity?
It has very good fluidity. It's the way we misused it the most, I feel like, is we took it into the Black Canyon and put an FS700 and a Canon 70-200 lens on that mug and tried to do footage with that and on a tiny tripod and tiny head. And it's just, it really, I think it's not designed to even hold that amount of weight. So that put a strain on the internal parts, and eventually they just continued to wear down. I mean, we also used the A6300 and the Sony A7S II with that big 70-200 Canon lens a lot over the last few years doing deer footage, and I think that put a strain on it as well.
It lasted 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones that we're using now will probably last until nuclear holocaust, but I mean, they're just big old die-cast, aluminum, just heavy duty little thing, and they're not that heavy, but they're kind of clunky, is what I'd call them, right?
Yeah, they don't move fluid really
they're
at all.
The slick. I don't know what they're
340,
called.
I think they came on the 340. I bought mine on a 340 tripod or something like that.
I don't know. It's the one with the kind of square. What's the word?
Quick plate?
Quick plate, yes. Yeah. So that's one of the problems with the slick tripods is that they don't have like the standard quick plate style like the Manfrottos do. It'd be nice if all quick plates were the same, kind of like SD cards. You remember when SD cards, there used to be different shaped ones a lot and stuff? Like there's memory sticks. I don't know. Now we got
figured
continuity there.
Yeah,
it's good.
It is good.
Yeah.
It is.
But we'll probably try to revamp our fluid head system this year a little bit because that slick one's like $40, and I bought another one because we needed two. because we just couldn't make it through the season. We only one flew there.
Yeah. I don't know. We're pretty hard on our gear too. I think overall, and we we hunt hard. So there's a lot of times we're walking a long ways in, and I mean, just everything when you're talking about adding, half pounds to all kinds of different gear. I mean, it can definitely add up. I mean, I'm by no means, like we talked about in the backcountry series, I'm not cutting my toothbrush in half or anything. But like when you're talking about the Manfrotto head that I use for weddings, as opposed to when I take in the woods, there's a different animal, dude.
Oh yeah, well, there's a ton of heads that are way better than the ones we use. But you legit just can't stick them on the end of a camera arm because it weighs too much.
Or you don't want to walk in the woods with this 3-pound head on top of a,
Which you've used that one on the muddy before, I remember.
Mostly on private. Yeah. Mostly. We did some of that footage from Nameless was stuff that we did in the past, and we would take the FS700 and in the big cannon and in the big head and in the muddy and everything, and
big head.
Oh, my big head. It shot some good footage, man. But at some point, like we're just not gonna be able to run into public places with all that gear. You know?
And honestly, we're steadily creeping towards when there's two of us in the stand doing some handheld stuff because it's not as smooth all the time, but. Like, when you have a camera arm, it's pretty much set where you're going to be able to film deer. And a lot of times in these big old crooked trees, or if you're somewhere where who knows which direction the deer are going to come from and who's going to be the shooter, it's just easier to have a handheld going. And we did that the other day.
The cameras have good stability systems, too,
exactly.
these days. Yep.
Yeah. All right, hunting. Tyler.
Yep.
What did your bucks this year score?
I never saw that question. I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't score them.
I think that's the point we're trying to get to here. When you say that, like, if a deer is like we give deer eye tests, right? And we say, it's about this. And if it's probably over the 150 mark, if it's solidly in the 150s, you and I will probably get out of tape.
Oh yeah.
But until then, it's just I don't know. Personally, I'm not like I don't take a lot of. Like personal gratitude and saying, that deer's I shot a 128 this year. You know what I mean? And if you do, that's fine. It's just not something I care too much to know about. Now, I don't know why, but like once you start pushing kind of close to that B and C mark, it gets cool to know actually what
for
it
sure,
is.
Man. I mean, and like it's not that I wouldn't. I don't know if I have as much time as I used to.
Yeah.
And that's part of it probably. I've never scored one-eyed Jack, but I probably will one day. And he's... In my opinion, I don't know if he'll go 150.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might. I would think, like, if I saw him on the hoof, I'd be, that was a toad, But, like, I don't know if he will or not. I haven't really added him up in my head even. But I don't think he has the longest of main beams because he's not real wide. But, I mean, he's just a great deer overall. And I would like to know what he scores just so it's just fun to just mess with deer, and learn things about them. So, but it's not important enough to me to continue measuring all my deer.
One of the things that I think has made me less score oriented is traveling from state to state, because if you start talking score, you shoot a good deer where we're from in East Texas, it might score 125, and that's going to look like a toad. Well, the same caliber deer, if you go to Iowa and shoot the same in relation to the other deer around, it's going to score 150, 155, and it's just a good way to make yourself not feel very good about where you're from and what you get to shoot on a normal basis. Honestly, So. I love going and hunting and chasing around giant bucks, and I've chased so many big deer this year. I got to think about it the other day. And it's like, man, I didn't kill like I wanted to this year, but talk about if you want that moral victory of what you got to run around with, and see, like, oh my goodness, man, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
probably like 5 or 6 different deer in front of you that were over Pope and Young, probably, huh? Maybe more.
Oh, over Pope and Young?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll run through them real quick.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it.
There's Gertz 8.
Gertz 9.
Gertz 9.
Gertz
10. There's Plum Thicket 10. There is the Private 10. There's the Private Young 10. That's 5.
Yeah.
That might be it. Maybe there's more. I can't. Is there anything else?
What about that? The one you saw after you saw the 9 that morning. Wasn't that a 10? That was had his head in that like Russian olive bush. It's at the end of one of our videos, the 9-point video. I'm pretty sure it was a 10.
I saw another deer that morning.
Yeah, I think you were walking out.
I don't know. I don't even remember it. Who knows how many deer?
There's maybe they may be a 6th, and then and then.
What did you say? Deer? I was within bow range.
No, just that you saw on the hoof.
Did I have to be a hunter? Because if not, then those Iowa deer count too.
It's true.
So,
dude,
lots.
But yeah, as a hunter, like 5 or 6 probably. Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Dude, it's pretty crazy. I learned so much this year from being around those deer. Mm-hmm. It's nuts.
Yep.
So,
it's fun.
My
man.
takeaway: go somewhere where you can be around a lot of deer, and you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what was the question?
Something about score.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so, how do you feel about wearing hikers to hunt in?
I like it.
Yeah, I know you do.
You don't?
No, I like it some. I also see the value in rubber boots, but I think that a lot of times I wear rubber boots when I really don't need to. Like if your access is good, you can get away with hikers. But I also think that if you treat rubber boots the right way, they're a little bit warmer than hikers.
Yeah, I thought I found that this year too.
But if you get your foot sweaty in a rubber boot, you're out of luck, Chuck. You're gonna get cold. So I do the whole sock change thing pretty often if it's pretty cold. Sometimes it's too cold to do the sock change thing.
Yeah. When it's 1 degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like the hikers just because they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And, like I said, if the access is okay, then you don't have to worry. But I also feel like the rubber boot thing, scent, thing is kind of overhyped a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially with the ones we have where they've got neoprene on them and stuff,
I just feel like there's so many other factors. Like we had that young deer come in and lick all the sticks and stuff underneath our stand this year because our scent was all over it, and he just wasn't scared for some reason. I don't know why, but I think it was kind of ruddy, and he was just like, "Oh, what's this?" But he like that just shows you how much scent you're putting in a place. If you exist somewhere, the stuff around you smells like a human. Mm-hmm. It don't matter if you just took a shower. It don't matter if you got on rubber boots. It don't matter if you use some ozone. Like, there's just going to be some scent, right? So, like, the rubber boot thing isn't something that's just going to be a deal breaker. I think it could help a little bit. And we always talk about any little thing you can do to help, you might as well do it, right? One of the big things I like about rubber boots is the fact that you can cross creeks pretty good with them. And that's kind of, especially in Iowa, there's creeks everywhere. Texas public land's a lot like that, too. So having a rubber boot, just having that security is pretty nice.
Yep, I agree.
So,
yep.
I don't know. That's kind of my take on it.
Yep.
You hate mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes, but you really don't like them. Do you ever use a thermocell?
No, because I don't have one.
Yeah. You know, I have one. We never use it. Next year, I need to get it
I think
out.
I'm going to beat you up real quick.
I need to get it out and use it. I actually got it out some this year and didn't really need it that often. I ran it. You remember that video that I took of me shooting the pig? It's on YouTube. I ran a thermocell that day, and I think it helped.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we used the thermocell in Nebraska a couple of days. The first morning, I think we used them. Anthony and I went so far back into this place. We saw one deer. It was a buck. It was probably 2-year-old buck. At like 60 yards. We were hunting from the ground because things just didn't pan out when we got in there.
I've been there on those kind of hunts.
Oh, we were sweating so hard. It was like 90 degrees. It actually was supposed to be like 94 that day or something. No, 97 is what it got up to that day. It was hot that day. But that morning, it didn't, I couldn't tell you if it made a difference. I'm just trying to explain to you, and I can't do it. There were so many mosquitoes, dude.
I believe you.
We talked to Tony Peterson. He was up there in the same time, and he goes, dude, I've never seen the mosquitoes like this. Like, it's just, it was a bad year for mosquitoes. So, like, the thermocell didn't keep them away. I don't know if it kept some of them away or not, but they were pretty outrageous. If I have to If I have to fight mosquitoes like that again, I might quit. I might not go. Like, the hunt was so much fun, except for the mosquitoes.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yep.
Some person wrote to us, and we're going to follow up with him a little bit more now that season's over to maybe see if we can be a bigger help. But this guy wants to start hunting. Been shooting a bow for a year. Never hunted. None of his friends hunt. He wants to know where he should go hunting and what he should expect and if he should buy a hunt. He really would like to do everything on his own, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. Got any advice for him?
I would like for somebody who's listening to this podcast right now to give us some advice, because that's a tough question, man.
Yeah.
I gave him some advice to get involved with some of maybe the hunter, hunter groups that are local or whatever, whoever that might be. But the thing is, some of these groups that are pretty popular right now, they would rather all meet up and have a beer than actually, teach hunting and that kind of thing, which is okay. I mean, whatever. But I think that, it's tough when none of your, like, you don't know anybody that hunts. I mean, I never had that issue. I mean, even if my dad didn't hunt and teach me how to hunt, I could have gone to just about any dude in my high school. Probably 50% of the dudes had hunted or knew how to shoot a gun and hunted a little bit, whatever. So it was not a deal for me that I would be familiar with. I would say watch as many YouTube videos as you can to learn. And don't get too if it's too entertaining, then it may not be completely true all the time.
If you look if they have more than one advertisement within the first 5 minutes, maybe take that with a grain of salt. I think those are good ideas.
What about you?
I think that I would tell him, if he wants to do everything on his own, to forget deer and go to some public and walk around and try to shoot a hog with his bow, because it's an obtainable thing. Get the wind in your face and go to walking, and you'll get within bow range. Because one of the things, especially since he's deciding to start with a bow, which I think is really cool, and you'll have more opportunity in the long run to hunt because of that. It's a much more difficult weapon to use, especially when you draw back on your first deer with a bow.
Scary.
Whoo, my goodness, man! I don't miss that feeling. Tell you the truth of the matter. But get that first kill under your belt with a pig, something that like you can do, and even once you do that, like maybe embrace the spot and stalk hunting, because you might tick some people off, but that's their own problem. I think that if you want to go kill a deer, walking around with the wind in your face on a day when you can walk quiet is probably a pretty good way to do it.
I mean, it's that may be like the best way to get started, right? Because all you have to do is know where the wind direction is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't have to buy a stand. You don't have to know about all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, you don't have to find a trail.
And you'll learn a lot about where deer are.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
You can put some pieces, like, hey, I've seen 3 deer under these trees, and all the leaves are falling. There's these round things underneath them that have meat inside of them. It's a good way to learn and a good way to see a lot of stuff, and you just don't have to commit that much.
It's good. I like that.
I also think he asked about buying a hunt. I don't think that's the perfect solution. I think that you could tweak that a little bit and find a way. I think that Texas is full of people who might not be the coolest, and it's also full of people who
you struggled with how to put that one together.
It's also full of people who are super hospitable and super loving. I've been on leases both ways, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of leases in Texas that are 6-gun leases, and there'll be a guy who's the head of the lease, the head of the hunters, and not a headhunter, but the guy who's like, in charge, and then he adds people to the lease to fill the lease. So it's not always a group of friends. It's just guys who happen to share the same lease. Maybe find a deal like that where you can be, one of those $1,000 guns or whatever, where you get a season on that lease and, be up front. Like, hey, I'm learning. I would love to come down there go to work days, help out, and learn from y'all because I just don't really know what I'm doing. And I'm going to be up front with you and say that, and hopefully you'll appreciate my honesty and help me out.
That's a good idea.
I think that you could find that. I wouldn't jump on the first one because it might not be the spot, but, maybe meet with some people and figure that out.
Is this guy from Texas?
I think so.
Okay,
yeah, I think he's from urban part of Texas.
Well, if we're going to speak to him as if he was on here or listening, I think that also be wary of anything in the southern half of Texas as far as like if you're going to buy a hunt or something like that. Yeah, I would definitely like if you're going to go on an outfitted hunt or a guided hunt or whatever you want to call it. I would be anything like southern half of Texas there's a chance it's what you would call canned or high fence or you're not really getting a great experience. I think if you were to look at something like in north central Panhandle, maybe like you probably could find some guys out there. You just be like, hey, I'm a new hunter. I don't have to kill the biggest one. I just want you to teach me some stuff. And I think that there would be guys up there that would definitely be willing to talk you through stuff and teach you stuff. And if the country might be a little more open, you might be able to see some stuff, or whatever, and learn. That's how. I mean, we learn a ton when we're able to see stuff like in Kansas or whatever. I mean, we love to hunt real open country. It's really tough to kill in, but it's really good to learn stuff in.
Yeah. Oh, you just see deer in interaction and stuff like that. So much better. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But good advice, dude. I like that stuff.
Thanks, man. You too. What region of Texas we hunt? This is another one of those where do you hunt questions, but I will tell you that we hunt more in the northern half of the state than we do in the southern.
Yep.
And maybe that'll make some folks happy.
Yep. Yeah. So a little less expensive.
That's right. I said more, right? Not always, but more. So I thought this was a good question. It made me think. Any luck on cold fronts? We talked about this a little bit earlier. Traditional knowledge tells you that cold fronts are when you need to be hunting. How do you feel about that, Tyler?
The question is, do we have any luck or have we had any luck on
the
cold
question
fronts?
Was posed specifically during a week where a cold front hit in late November, talking about that specific cold front, but I thought we'd expand it a little bit to just in general cold fronts.
I killed a doe on a sunshiny, warm day this year. I killed a buck the next afternoon I think it was the next afternoon after a cold front hit. So a cold front hit that evening. It got super cold. It froze rain to my deer stand and steps and everything that next morning when I went in there. And then that evening, it was still cold, but it started to clear out a little bit. The clouds and everything started to clear a little bit. Kind of warmed up a touch, and I killed. So that was kind of like on the back end of a cold front. It was definitely colder. And then I killed in Iowa the morning that a cold front blew in. So it was raining that morning slightly, and it stopped raining, and the wind picked up, and it got real cold that afternoon. And so that's my experience this year for sure.
Yeah. I think that so it seems to me that the earlier in the season, the better the cold front is. If it's a legit cold front. If you drop from 90 to 85, it's not really that big of a deal. But like the later you push on the season, the less the cold front makes a difference unless it's really, really cold. The thing that got me to thinking about this is that I hunted multiple cold fronts in Kansas this year, that the best day was the next day.
Yeah, I love that.
After it goes through, maybe the wind hasn't swapped over yet. It's still north, but instead of being like miserable, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, and it's like blowing like in midday it'd be blowing like 10, and on the ends of the day it's blowing like 5 or none. Light variable.
Exactly. Deer love those days. I think, man.
Yeah, high pressure, cold,
40 degrees outside. Kind of sunny, a little bit partly cloudy or whatever. It just seems like to me that maybe cold fronts are a touch overhyped, and for instance, think about the day that you and I were in Kansas and the snow was blowing sideways.
The worst.
It was so terrible. There was a few deer out and about. We saw the big 8 that night at last light, but that actually was pretty much 24 hours after the front had hit.
Yeah.
It's still blowing like crazy because we're in Kansas, but it was not on the cold front.
Like sunnier and everything. Yeah.
I don't think that the front is what you got to hunt. I think you got to hunt the fallout behind it. I think that's really the spot to be
for
in.
sure. I think that the main thing that people get excited about with fronts is that it just changes things. You know what I mean? Like, it's not necessarily that it's getting cold and nasty. I think with ducks, there's a different deal there, you know, but like, or waterfowl. But, for like deer, I think it's a lot of times has to do with the fact that, it's changing things where a lot of times you'll have, between fronts, you've got these days that are just in the 60s or whatever, and it's sunny every day, and it's just doesn't feel like a hunting day. And then a front brings something in that changes things up. So
I do think that those consistent days can be really good outside the rut, because I think that you're going to have deer doing the same thing day in and day out after about 3 days of consistency. And that showed on my last hunt in Kansas this year, where you string together a couple days. It's almost like fish. You string together a couple days that are about the same weather, and you're going to end up having deer kind of doing the same thing every day. Whereas the cold front is good because it might end up where there's a deer doing something at 3 p.m. than it wasn't before. So I guess there's kind of two sides to being able to hunt it. If on those good weather days, if you got deer coming, they'll still be there the next day in a similar, hopefully. How would a person start going to ATA if they don't go to ATA now?
I would say quickly run away. No.
I think that I like gear a lot. You're not as much. I mean, you like it, but you're not like a gear junkie. I wouldn't say I am either, really. But I don't think either of us really enjoy the ATA scene that much. We like some of the people there, so don't take offense if you think that doesn't mean we don't like you. We do like you. It's just that big show thing is not my deal. But if you're the kind of person who wants to at least go experience it once, which I wouldn't fault you for that, because it's kind of like there's a mystique to it, right? I told people to maybe get involved with your local pro shop more, and if they go, you can go with them or something like that, Or if you're a person who has some money and you want to go do that kind of thing, you can buy an admission and call yourself some type of outdoor production company and go. But this year it was like $600, and
expensive.
And we both had better things to do, pretty much.
Yeah, bird hunting.
So we didn't go.
No, you're right. And you could also, I think, some of the smaller companies, you could probably email and be like, hey, if y'all need some help running the booth, man, I would really like to be at the show this year, and I'll help you out. If you'll get me in, they'd probably do it, man.
Yeah. So. On that note, with shows, if you're in Texas, Tyler and I are going to try to be at some of the Texas stuff this year a little bit more. Yeah. Actually, I kind of liked going to Dallas Safari Club.
I love it.
The truth, man.
I love going.
It's neat.
It is.
You gotta accept it for what it is. If you see high heels and big blonde hair, run the other direction. But otherwise, it's a cool place. So we'll probably be there. Might be down in Houston. Who knows where else? You might see us at the gas station at the Texas Big Buck Roundup. What's it called?
You talking about the Texas Trophy Hunters Extravaganza?
No, I'm talking about the one down there in the Golden Triangle, that one gas station that runs the Texas Big Buck.
Los Cazadores?
Yeah, Los Cazadores. Yeah. I was kind of making a joke, but then it didn't go very good. Let's see. What do you think the peak of the rut is here in Northeast Texas?
November 14th through the 20th.
How do you come up with those factors?
Trail camera data. Yep, just past years, not just one, but several years.
So one of the best way to test that theory is to measure fetuses, which I think we got into with Lindsay last podcast, but we don't really get to shoot does late enough in the season to do that much here, so we really have to just go off of observed data. And if you want to talk about peak buck movement this year, the last week of October was raging, but I do think consistently those are being bred like, plus or minus from November 15th, pretty much is going to be the day. So I'm with you on that one. You actually answered this one on social media, but I thought it was a really good question. What do you do with a killer stand location that has a bad wind 98% of the time? How do you hunt that spot because you can go in there and kill if you could just not have to deal with the wind?
Hunt it in the morning.
Hunt it in the morning. Why is that?
Because your thermals are going to be rising, and on a sunny morning.
Sunny and still, probably,
sunny and
right?
still morning, yeah. And you are just going to have to work. It's going to be magic. It's going to just have to be magic is what it is. It's going to be the thermals are going to be rising on a sunny and still light and variable day. And so you hope that that deer doesn't come in too early, probably.
Yeah. I thought that was I feel like that, A, is something that I've learned from you, and B, something that people don't really talk that much about. Is people talk about thermals, but they're always talking about how the wind correlates to slopes. And I think
like
that
in hill country.
Yes,
yeah.
I think that people underestimate how much just the sunshine in general affects, scent and stuff like that. Like, for instance, where I was hunting one time in Kansas this year, it was pretty flat, but we had a rising thermal and a decent breeze, and my wind was just blowing right over deer that should have been smelling me like crazy, And
I mean, I'm the whitetail weatherman, but I don't have much of a degree in this thing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can pretty much tell, in my opinion, that the sunnier it gets in Kansas, the more the wind blows, right?
Yeah.
So, like, in the middle of the day, there's always going to be a 10-mile-an-hour wind or so, probably, almost always, because it's sunniest. And then on the ends of the day, after sunset, before sunset, or after sunset and before sunrise, you're going to have the stillest part of the day almost always out there on days that are high-pressure days, So,
and the colder it is, the better that's going to work. So if you get one of those heavy frost mornings, I mean, you can breathe and just watch your smoke go straight up. Not smoke, whatever you call it, vapor. So
they're just nicotine products,
that's right. Yeah. And I think with that, too, the colder it is, the less scent actually works, right? Isn't that a thing? Like the hotter,
I don't know how that works.
I think that's the case. So the hotter it is, the better the smell receptors, scent receptors, or whatever in an animal's nose or our nose either work. And then the colder it is, the not as good, because the molecules are just not moving around as fast. This is bro science, everybody. Okay, but this is what I think
I love that.
is the case.
Bro science. Better than Brocephus.
That's right. The colder it is, the less well scent works for animals. So when it's really cold, I don't think they can smell very good. If that's completely false, somebody tell me otherwise. But I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yep.
Do you think that if somebody is hunting a private piece in a bait state and the deer stop coming late season to their setup with their corn feeder and their stand, they should move, or do you think they should move the whole thing?
Move states?
Yeah, move states. What do you think they should do?
Oh man, late season.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna start with this. It depends on the situation. It depends on what's around you. So I don't want that to be my only answer here, but. I would say that I would keep the setup where it is, hope for a cold front, and try to find where the deer have gone. If you change things up, then you're going to be late season, starting anew, trying to figure out, technically deer, sure, they could get on it quick and come find you and be there, but it might change patterns, especially if you don't move it too far to where, like, everything from that point, from the first of the season to that point, just changes up and goes down the drain. So I would say try to find the deer first before moving the setup.
Yep. I think I'm with you. The one thing I would say is that if the deer aren't coming to you corn there, they're not going to come to it 400 yards away. Yeah. They're just not coming to corn right then for some reason. Either they don't like your spot because you've got some smelly stuff in there, or I think in my case, there's just so much food on my own personal property and on adjacent places between corn and just natural browse that they just don't have to come there every day. So I think that I probably wouldn't move my feeder ever, especially if you got a good spot that's kind of a killer access spot or whatever. Why would you? I think that you could possibly look at doing a hanging hunt deeper in the woods, or however you want to phrase it, and maybe you just don't have deer coming out earlier, so you got to go to them or whatever. But I think that's a good point you made about like finding where they went. You know, a little bit of driving around, especially in our area of Texas, you got county roads all over the place. You can figure out, this guy's got a wheat field over here, and that's where all the deer are.
Or you just find the deer dead on the side of the road.
That's right. Not done
You're
that.
like, well, no wonder he's not coming anymore.
Yeah. Do you hunt around home?
Do I? Is that a question from a listener?
Yeah.
I don't guess I've hunted around home this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat in a stand with you, and I'm not the hunter usually, even though you tell me I am. I'm not. So, no, I haven't hunted around home this year. I need to find a place. I need to maybe utilize, hey, I've got a son who's about to try to shoot his first deer, whatever, something like that. I don't know. I need to do something. I need to get a spot.
So I had a question about broadhead tuning.
Okay, that's going to be you.
Okay. So we've dealt with this a little bit. Luckily, Tyler's bow just shoots lights out no matter. It just eats them, whatever you put through it. So we hadn't had to worry about this too much. But with mine, it's a little bit touchier, and I'm shooting that wider broadhead from day 6. And you got to kind of worry about this stuff a little bit. So there's 2 things that I've learned about shooting fixed blade broadheads. Okay, I used to just slap a rage on there and just let it fly, not even shoot them, and it worked pretty good. I wouldn't suggest that because once you get out past 40, I think it makes a difference. But also, the faster your bow is shooting, the harder it is to tune a broadhead. So if you can get a bow that's pretty high speed IBO. So like right now I'm shooting Matthews Triax 343 is the IBO on it, which is not the speed. There's a big calculation you can do to get the actual speed of your bow. But the heavier your arrow is, the more it's going to slow down that bow, and it's going to be easier to tune that broadhead. So this season I was shooting, I think, 267 feet per second or something like that, and it was way easier to tune broadheads than what my bow was shooting last year at 280 foot per second. Tyler's probably 8 or 10 foot per second slower than me, and I guarantee you Tyler could strap a big razor on the front of his arrow, and it would shoot it good. It is shooting crazy good. So take that right there. Shoot a heavier arrow if you want to shoot fixed blades. So with that, the bigger the broadhead is on the end, and especially if it's not vented, the harder it is going to be to tune. And the more important your grip is going to be on what the broadhead does. So you really have to pay attention to your top cam and your bottom cam. You can just look at your top cam because it's easier to see, and make sure that the way you're holding your bow is keeping that string perfectly in line with your top cam. Okay, any tilt at all is going to send that arrow dolphining or whatever out through, and it's going to throw off where your broadhead is hitting. Now, once you get all that lined out and you get your broadheads hitting consistently, shoot 2 field points and 2 broadheads, one after another, and see where they're hitting. Ideally, your field points are going to be hitting bullseye because that's kind of the point of archery, right? And if you don't have that worked out, don't put the broadheads on yet. But get your field points hitting bullseye, and then see where your broadheads are hitting. And then what you're going to do is chase your field points with your broadheads by moving your arrow rest. Okay, you don't move your sight. All right, that's not what you move. Move your arrow rest, and so what's going to happen is that gap is going to tighten up as you move all these things, and you're going to move your sight at the end of everything, guys. But don't do that yet. So if your broadheads are hitting in a different spot than your
field points.
Sorry, I'm getting lost in my example here. You're going to move. You're going to chase. What is it? You chase one or the other. I don't know. Test it out. I think you chase your field points. Okay, so if your broadheads are hitting way left, you're going to move your arrow rest to the right, and both things should slowly shift to the right, but the broadheads are going to catch up sooner than your field points. So what you're going to end up doing is sooner or later, after you move your rest a few times, they should be hitting very close to the same spot. Now, when they start getting close, don't shoot the same hole, all right, because you're going to lose some arrows or ruin some. But that's how you're going to broadhead tune. And then once you get those hitting in the same place, you're going to then move your sight accordingly to where it lines up where your bullseye is the same place as your field points and as your broadheads. Sorry if that was complicated. No. I'm not the best person to explain all this. There's some people who are like legit archery nerds in a good way on YouTube. Go just search it and they can help you out. I'm the guy who hunts and kind of figured this stuff out a little bit. Yep. Or go to your local pro shop. They can help you out with that stuff.
Yeah, that too. Only thing I would add is, never mind. I wouldn't add anything.
Okay. Also, if you don't feel like undertaking all that, there are some really nice expandables out there as well.
Crossbows too.
Yeah, you could shoot a crossbow, especially in Texas. But I do think that just in general, I am a fixed blade guy nowadays. I used to not be, and now I am, because it's just nice to know that you're shooting something that's just going to pack a punch. You know, it's cool, man. All right, we're getting close to the end of this deal.
Right. Bet everybody's taking a good deep breath
now. Let's see. There's two more, really. And these aren't like really great wrap-ups, so maybe I'll come up with a question for you that's just going to be like,
okay.
Ooh, ah. Gear review from the Gila trip. Are we going to do a video on that stuff?
We probably should.
Probably should. I didn't really think much about it. I think our answer was, man, the rest of the season is just getting going. It's not a great time for us to do a gear review. So we'll throw up a backcountry gear video of some sort where we just talk about all the stuff that we used and if we liked it or not.
Yeah, it's good. Good question. I haven't even thought about that really. So yeah. We should definitely do that. I did I did a 28-day trip with my family in a truck. Basically, we had one truck with a topper on it, and so at the end when we got back, I did this video, and Kaylee was like waiting on me to go somewhere. I can't remember. I was like, I just need to do this real quick, and so I had the FS 700 set up, and I don't have a lens that'll autofocus with, and I thought I did. And so it was slightly out of focus the whole time. I did this like rehash of what all I took on this big, huge 28-day trip. I pulled it all out of the truck. It was like, I used this for this. I didn't really use this. This was cool because this. And it was all out of focus when I got done because Kaylee didn't help me run any of the cameras or anything. And I was real mad.
I bet.
Because I spent like 20 minutes doing that, dude.
I bet you were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll do that. We'll get on that. We might break it down a little bit because
backpack breakdown.
Yeah, backpack breakdown. Ooh, yeah. Nice one. Last one. This might be more for me because I think you and I discussed this the other day. But how do you get over the heartbreak of losing a deer? This guy specifically shot a big deer and lost it, so it stunk. And then somebody else also lost a couple targets that were tanks to EHD this year. Ooh. So I guess there's a couple ways you can lose a big deer. But
well, you might be a good start here, and I might have a good end.
So y'all probably haven't seen this when this comes out, but I lose a buck this season. I've talked about it on the podcast a little bit. It'll be on YouTube pretty soon. I think I've decided that we're gonna air that and just talk about it, even though some people are gonna hate on it because that's just the way people are. But for me, I'm still not over it. I don't know if I ever will be over it. It's the first deer I've ever shot and not found until the coyotes smoked him. But for me, the process of getting over it started the next time I went hunting. And I think that was a big deal for me, was to get out in the woods again and hunt. And it took me about 5 days to want to go do that. But I went out, didn't see much of anything. I think I might have saw a few does or whatever, but it was just nice to finally get back out and kind of regain a little confidence just because I have a bow in my hand. And I guess along with that, like I missed elk in 2013 in Colorado with my recurve, which felt terrible. And the way I kind of got over that was just got out and shot my bow a ton. And I think that I did that some this year too when I shot that deer and missed him, or didn't miss him. Sorry, shot that deer and lost him. Just kind of refamiliarizing yourself with your weapon and making sure that you're doing what you need to be doing, and making sure that I don't know, you still feel comfortable shooting. I think is a big deal. That and just getting out and hunting again. I mean, like I said, I don't think I've gotten over it yet, and probably take me a while. And I think this has taught me a lot about myself, because I don't know if I'd have felt much different if it was a giant or not. Like, I still felt pretty bad about it, you know? It's not a great thing. I mean, you and I talked about it a lot, and it's like we'd said, and people don't need to take this the wrong way, but it is just a deer. Right, it's not like the life of a human, or it's not, we're not talking about a matter of salvation or anything. It's just a thing where it stinks, but it's just a part of the experience, especially of a hunter. It's part of the hunter's experience. But I think if I just let it slide easily, then I'm probably not doing the right thing either. Right, so probably just part of this is going to be in the off season, making sure I'm doing what I need to be doing to be an effective hunter, making sure I like my bow set up. But outside of that, I mean, it's just going to take a little bit of time. That's about all I really know.
Man, Justin, we had Justin Wright, my buddy, on. That's going to be around episode 21, I think. And he lost a deer. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to that episode. It's a long one, but it's a story of a buck that he shot and we chased forever and never actually got it killed. At least, not while we knew where it was. And so, Justin just now, that was in 2015. He sent me some trail camera pictures this year from a trail camera. And, between 2015 and those trail camera pictures, he didn't hunt. Yeah. I mean, he coyote hunts a little bit and just, hunts a tournament every year and goes out with one of his buddies and they do some calling. That's about it. I mean, he just gave up deer hunting, and I would encourage you that if you're one of those guys that's lost a deer, not to do that, and to stay after it. I think like you said, hunting is a good thing, especially if you're hunting by yourself. You can reflect and think about things, but also that could be that may not fix things for you. So going out and hunting with a buddy too just allows you to have a fun time and kind of forget about some things.
Talking with you helped me a ton.
Yeah.
Especially if you got a tight hunting buddy who's your guy. You got to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's not good to just sit there and try to work through it in your own mind, because sometimes that gets to be a pretty dark place.
Sure. Yeah. No, I can see that for sure. And it's been a long time since I lost a deer. Fortunately, I've probably come close several times. I mean, the backyard buck, we did the big bucks and bulls of the past episode or whatever this summer or whenever it was. And if you listen to that, you know what I'm talking about. But I had a buck that I found while I was taking a leak in the bathroom of deer camp that we had been looking for a long time. And he was literally laid up dead in the backyard. I mean, that deer, that's several hundred yards, from where I shot him. He took a big loop, went back to that tree line on the backside of that field. You know where I'm talking about, probably. Right, have you been up there? You've been up there.
You talking about the Kwanzaa?
Yeah, right around there, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he went to the back of the tree line, then went down that tree line, went past the hut, and down into the bottom and up around to the backyard right there. I mean, it was several hundred yards. And, we were about to give up. We were about done. I mean, we're going to maybe do one more grid search. So, and I found it's just a crazy story. So, but, there's been I've definitely made some shots that were a little bit back, and I always make fun of people, but I try not to make fun of people too bad, but
you always do, but you try not to.
I always make fun of people on TV that do this a lot, because they'll shoot a deer nearly in the back hindquarter and be like, it's a little back, and I'm like, no, it's way back. So
way back.
Anyway, I've hit deer 4 to 6 inches back, back rib or whatever. And, those deer are tough, man, up there especially. And so, Just saying, I'm saying that I haven't lost a deer in a long time because I've been lucky, but so I can't really give a whole lot of insight into this. I can just say that Justin, definitely struggled with it. I talked about this. This is as close as I got, but I had a buck at 5 yards in Iowa, and I was up there by myself. I was kind of just tired and struggling mentally, and it was cold, and I'm weak apparently as well. Both of us are, and so this deer comes in one morning on a ridge, and I'm hunting a ridge. I don't know how to hunt ridges. You know what I mean? Like in my interview, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just trying to say, okay, this is how deer behave where I'm from or where I've hunted in the past. I'm going to use that to the best of my knowledge on this ridge and just hope that, because people kill them on ridges. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping I'm in the spot. And I was in the spot, dude. It was good. And the deer literally, I see him at like 50 or 60 yards. He's coming. And luckily I was pretty much ready to rock and roll. The wind was blowing pretty good so I could move around, get my bow, get it turned on. If you haven't watched the video, I'll just go ahead and give a quick overview. But the camera falls when I get it set. He's at like probably 18 or 20 yards. I mean, he's close. Camera falls straight down. And so I was like, I mean, I've already shot 2 deer that weren't on camera. So I was like, part of my challenge is that I'm going to try to get one on camera this year, Mm-hmm. So I pull it back up, and about the time I get it set and get my release clipped back on, he's coming at me. I mean, straight at my tree. And it's just like, when they're walking at you, and a buck, he walks with his head kind of low, but he's looking forward and he's smelling the ground, And so I'm like, he's going to see me if I draw, And so he ends up basically walking to 5 yards before I draw, and I'm almost 100% sure he sees my bottom step, and then follows him up the tree to this big blob that's in this little tiny oak tree, on the side of this ridge, and takes off running. And at that point, and I had already missed in Kansas. I missed a buck from the ground. And if you saw that video, it was definitely, I don't feel super bad about missing that deer because I just feel like it was a really tough shot. And maybe I shouldn't have taken it, but I felt good about it when I let it fly. It just mm-hmm. went low. But those 2 things, were 2 things that happened this season that I definitely struggled with. And I just had to remind myself, and, I know not everybody out there listening thinks the same way as Casey and I, but that just the plan is right. The plan is perfect. There's God's sovereign in that, just wasn't meant to kill that deer, man. And so, I'm going to keep plugging away after it. And that was my encouragement in the woods this year when things weren't going right. So, I know it still doesn't take away the burn, and it's definitely more of a burn when you hit a deer and mm-hmm. you're not able to find him,
Yeah.
Because I've done it before. It's been a while. The first deer I ever shot at was off my dad's shoulder with a gun. We were walking into a deer stand and we see deer, and here I am. I've only ever shot off like a rock solid table and taken my time, and he's like, put it on my shoulder. And so I put it on the shoulder, and I guess I gut shot him, but we never found him. So I don't know. We're lucky that we get to listen to podcasts and stuff these days to learn how to track deer better than we used to be able to, and all these different things. I mean, we've had magazines for a long time that have taught us a lot of great things, but this is the age of information, man, and we get to learn so much. So
yeah, you're right, man, for sure. Well, that's about all we had for questions that have been submitted throughout the deer season. And guys, kind of just as a big apology, sorry if we didn't get to you quick or if you felt like we didn't answer you completely. We're doing our best to be good dudes. So sorry. Don't feel like we snubbed you or anything. And if you have more you want to talk about, please reach out to us. We like to talk about this stuff, but we're never going to present ourselves as the experts or anything, but we like to talk hunting with people. So yep. Holler at us. I guess kind of a good way. This is kind of our season wrap up, if you want to call it that. I mean, I don't really like to go back through things, like, back in October, and just kind of tell a story all over again. But let's just talk about 2020 a little bit. I know this thing's been going on for a while, but in general, just tell me one goal hunting wise that you want to complete. We're not, I don't want you to go down a list of stuff because I don't think we've put together our list of goals, but like one goal you want to complete as a hunter in 2020.
Well, I mean, other than kill 5 200s in 5 states.
Yeah,
I was thinking, okay. So y'all all know that, but no,
Mr. 200 weatherman over
here. My goal. So it's a hunting goal.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's tough. I have not spent a lot of time working on goals this year. Maybe that's a bad thing. I'm normally a goal-oriented guy. I've been so busy, man, so busy that I've hardly had time to think. I would think that something that's kind of that I would like to definitely do that comes to my mind here as far as hunting goes is I want to kill a solid buck in Kansas. And I've killed a lot of bucks in Kansas. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been hunting up there a long time, and this is basically like this year is the second year that I've not killed a buck up there. In a lot, I mean, I've killed deer on the last.
You mean second year ever?
Second year ever, I think.
When was the other one?
Kansas. The other one was 2016. After I killed Jack.
Yeah.
So I didn't kill one then. I killed Jack. I didn't kill, and then I killed Nameless. 18 was Frankenstein.
But in 16, you passed a really good 4-year-old, right?
Where was that?
It got shot by rifle hunters.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yep. I passed a good, like almost 140-inch 8-point. He's like real high 130s, I think, when they taped him out.
Yeah.
But he was like a 4-year-old that had grown pretty good from the year before. So we thought, well, it'd be a nice one to shoot at 5,
Yeah.
And we this particular property is where my dad hunts, and so I don't just shoot everything there.
Yeah.
But I haven't shot a ton of like what you would consider a lot of people consider trophies or high scoring deer. Over the years, I've killed a lot of old, gnarly 6, 7, 8 points. You know?
And to be honest, they look way cooler on the wall.
That's what my dad always says, and I'm with him too. I would just a big, heavy 6 or 8 or whatever. That's like 6 or 7, 8 years old. That's what I love deer like that.
Yeah.
Man. And so it's not that I'm not complaining at all. It's just that, like deer that are 140 plus, I haven't killed a ton of them. And so like. It's kind of when I've been thinking in this postseason a little bit about what I kind of didn't do this year that I would really like to do. And this isn't like me just being goal oriented. It's more me just like when I think about this in particular, which what this is me shooting like 140 top deer in Kansas next year. When I think about it, it makes me so excited. Like I'm ready to go, dude, because I know where they are right now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I know it.
And they're going to shed those horns soon, And I'm just like, I just want to, I know where they're at, I just need a little more time. But next year, it's going to be really fun. I'm really looking forward to doing that and I hope that you do it too, because there's hardly a better night in deer camp when somebody shoots a nice buck.
Oh,
you know what I mean? It's the funnest thing there is.
We hardly got to do it at all this year.
I know.
Just for a second. Because it happened on the afternoon when the guys were leaving. Some guys who we had met recently killed a big buck. But between like kind of our group from a couple years, up in Kansas, I mean, Drew recovered his deer, but it was like after you and your dad had left.
Yeah, we were gone.
It was 32 hours later. So we never got to really have that, man. And like even with any year deer that you killed on public land in other states, I was never there for any of it.
I know. That gummit.
I know it's. But I hope we get to do that. And this is going to be easy because that's also my goal for next year. So pretty much everything you just said. I mean, I'm going on 2 years straight of not at least recovering a really good deer. And to be frank with you, all the deer I shot and lost wasn't a giant. He was just a good 3-year-old. And I was happy to shoot him at that point in the season. And but it just is really tough to be as close to a lot of those big deer as we were and not shoot one. I mean, dude, one of the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life, we were 45 yards from. Yeah. That's nuts. 45 yards on the ground, and then...
They had no clue we were there.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the doe just freaks out and runs away. But y'all see that pretty soon
it's
on
coming soon.
YouTube.
That may be the next video.
Yeah, I think it is. So, anyways, just to wrap that up quick, that's going to be my goal too. Like, Kansas is the focus for next season, unless I draw Iowa, which I don't think I will. But there's a chance on those points. But yeah, that's what I want to do, man. Is go kill a good buck in Kansas, because at this point in time, put a lot of effort into it. It's like it's time to start. It's not that I deserve to get paid back, but it's time for me to make it happen after all this effort. It's like everybody deserves the state championship in football because they've all put in a bunch of work, right? But only a few people get it. Well, I think that I need to make sure and take the steps to make it happen.
Man, at least the quarterfinals.
That's right.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that I would like to video you shoot a deer because it's been a while since either one of us videoed the other one.
We talked about that. I think that this season we're going to do our best to spend more time in the stands together. Because the footage is so much better and you're more effective as a hunter. If you're going to make the commitment to film your hunts, you're way more effective if you're the guy who gets to hunt and another guy's filming. Because, like, I'm not going to say it would have been different, but if I hadn't been filming my hunt on that deer, like, things could have played out differently because at one point in time he was 12 yards away. Yeah. And I just because I was trying to get it on footage, I couldn't get the shot at that point in time.
And that to be transparent, like we still got to work to make money. Like we're not, there's a lot of people out there that are able to, make a living off their hunting brand or whatever, and that's not us, and that's okay. Like we're enjoying the process. We're enjoying what we do. We get to hunt probably a lot more than most people listen to this podcast. So I can't complain, man. But the truth of the matter is we still have to, we have families, we have jobs. And so we have to come back during the season. Sometimes we can't just stay out forever and hunt. And so, being that our schedules are also separate and that we're not, this isn't a, number one priority for us. Because there's, it's not putting food on the table. We don't necessarily get to sync our schedules up all the time, or didn't this year. And maybe next year things change, and so we'll be able to do more of that. And that's what I would hope. You know what I mean? So, but this year we definitely it was in and out. I mean, you rode to Kansas every time by yourself this year. I rode to Kansas every time but one by myself this year. I drove to Iowa once by myself.
Well, it's because 2 of your trips to Kansas, you came from different places than home to get there. It was just a crazy hunting season, and I would like to see it happen where we do get to do that more together. But if we're going to continue on doing element stuff, there's a good chance that it's a lot of times like it was this season because we're going and hunting and doing and all this stuff, and that's cool. It's fine. I just think that we need to try and make sure to, I guess, capitalize on the opportunities we have, to be able to go up there and share all that with you and I and other people in camp too, and get to hang out and do the thing.
It's going to happen. Dude, next year, we're going to kill some deer earlier next year. It was just a weird season, man.
It was.
It just didn't, like things, they tried to happen several times and they just didn't. And I don't think that happens forever. You know what I mean? Like at some point in early November, we're going to kill. We did it 3 years ago. You know what I mean? So,
and quite honestly, we got to get off this podcast, but the earlier November hunt in Kansas wasn't that great. I was there a day or two before you, and it kind of took me a little while to get in the groove of things, and then I don't know, it was freezing cold a couple days, and the deer didn't really get wound up until we had to leave. So. It's almost like it was not that those days were wasted, but it was kind of like it's a big chunk of time for not a lot to be happening. So I don't know.
I know, man. There's some weird things that happen, and I think that if you spend enough time in decent deer country in November, like eventually you're gonna kill. And I think next year one of us is gonna kill early. It's gonna be good, man.
Ooh, man.
I'm excited about it. I think we learned so much this year, and we've talked about that before, I think. And we learn a lot every year, and I think that's important. I don't think you should stop learning, necessarily. If you do, then you're probably a virtuoso or whatever you want to call it, at what you do. So, but we learned so much this year that I think is going to really come full circle and help us be effective. We talked about that in our podcast that we did a couple weeks ago. You remember? So anyway, it was a fun year, man. Speaking of big bucks in Kansas, the giraffe buck vid is out. And so I had a pretty unique experience with a buck that I saw coming across this cornfield through some brush towards me. And I grabbed my bow immediately because I was like, that's a toad. And when he got closer, like real close, I realized that this toad had knocked off both antlers, basically, fighting. And so it looks like a big old fat neck giraffe is what it looks like. And so we posted that video last night, which will be, I think, 2 nights for you guys when you hear this. But yeah, it's up. Go check it out. KC passes a deer in the video. A nice
Decent
9 point.
buck, yeah.
How old do you think that deer was?
Probably 3.
That's what I think too.
But he just has a different look about him a little bit.
His face looks old as can be, man.
It's just got that weird face, like he got hit in the head with a 2x4 when he's a baby or something. You know, like it's just like his eyes are flatter or something. It's real strange.
Yeah, his eyes are weird, man.
Yeah,
but he looks kind of like 3-year-old body. He's got a good rack. Would you have shot him on your last hunt?
Oh yeah. Dude, on my last hunt, I was.
Spikes.
I actually might have passed the spike on the last hunt.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but like it wouldn't have taken much.
Yeah.
And honestly, the reason I passed that spike is because I was like, man, I can get more meat than that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that really
Right.
up there. There's a big difference in body size from a 1.5 or
To
whatever he
2.5
is.
even.
Yes,
Yeah.
big difference. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Heckgummit, dude. Well, that was a good buck. Go check that video out. So if you have already subscribed, make sure that you hit the bell for notifications because that'll help you stay up to date with the rest of these season videos coming out, which we still have several videos coming out, including a giant buck that's about to hit the floor right here pretty soon. So check that out. Do that. Also, we like nice comments on those videos.
Thanks,
Those are very beneficial, and I've seen a lot of you guys doing that, and I think it's out of pity and support, and so we appreciate that. And like it feels good. That's the encouragement we were talking about in the beginning of the podcast 14 hours ago, if you remember. So anyway, don't forget, now's a great time to get out in the woods and find like good sign, good trails, rubs, and just basically to kill your buck next year right now. You know what I mean? So don't forget about that, and remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.